Hi, my name is Lyric, and today we're going to be reacting to everything you need to know about the MLB Iceberg by the YouTuber No More Fielders. Link in the description below to their channel. Yeah, so this is a really long video, so put your seatbelts on, grab some popcorn, maybe watch this in several sessions, because this is an hour and a half long video, and I want to start to delve into more other sports, because I'm very interested in NBA. I know I'll have a lot of NBA knowledge. If you look at my Lyric Reacts NBA channel, where I do NBA reactions, or my Lyric Rumbles NBA channel, where I have original NBA videos of my own. But I haven't really delved that far deep into other sports. I do know, some about a lot of the other sports, just from being around sports circles, talking about NBA and stuff. But I have not actually, I plan to dive a lot deeper into these other sports. So we can do that a lot on this channel. And I think it'd be a good idea. So yeah, this is everything I need to know about the MLB in one Iceberg video. So if the title is correct, it should give me a pretty good grasp on a lot of MLB stuff that should be necessary for me to know if I want to learn more about the sport. And yeah, if you're an MLB fan, you have any more videos you think would be useful for me to watch to learn more about MLB and stuff, put those in the comment section below, and I'll put them in my playlist, the videos that I'm trying to react to. So yeah, let's get it. And by the way, if you haven't realized, you're not subscribed to the channel. What the hell is wrong with you? How many of my videos have you watched now? If you've watched at least 2 of my videos, you haven't subscribed, you have a mental disability. Come on now. And also like the video if you want to, let me know that you want more MLB specific reactions. And yeah, that'll be about it. So let's just get into it. No long intros. Let's go.
Major League Baseball opening day, well, the real one, is fast approaching, and after a long winter, many of us could use a refresher on why we love the game so much. A few years ago, me and some friends covered an MLB Iceberg made by Minecraft YouTuber Asly, and ever since I've wanted to do a follow-up. But this time, I wanted to take the iceberg concept way too seriously. For those of you who are unaware, an iceberg is a piece of freshwater ice.
I'm a big fan of Iceberg type videos, the Iceberg format for YouTube videos. I watch a bunch of them, and I plan to react to a bunch of them. And yeah, because I just love the format. I think it's a really good way to explain a lot of information, simply in a one controlled format. Obviously not getting that deep into any subject, but it's a good starting point if you want to learn about a subject at all. So yeah, I just really like the Iceberg video format.
More than 15 meters long that has broken off a glacier or ice shelf floating freely in open water. But for this purpose, an iceberg is a way to sort information for a specific topic, from most well-known at the top, all the way to most obscure at the bottom. Basically, if you are a fan of baseball, which I would say about 99% of my audience is, the top layer should be borderline insulting with how basic the information is. Layers 2 and 3 should be deeper information, but nothing that will scare your parents off. Layers 4 and 5 may start to throw some curveballs at you, even if you consider yourself a diehard fan, and layers 6 and 7 get to some of the most obscure rules, stories, stats, players, and may even border on the conspiratorial. Now, don't just double tap.
Another thing also that's really cool about Iceberg type videos is that anyone who's remotely interested in the topic can watch Iceberg type videos, because if you know nothing about MLB, you'll probably be interested because you won't know anything on the iceberg, right? You won't know the very top stuff, you won't know the very bottom stuff, so you'll be learning, the very top stuff, and then you'll eventually learn about the very bottom stuff. But if you're a diehard fan of MLB, you're probably still not gonna know everything on the iceberg. You're gonna start talking about stuff you already know and stuff, and then it's gonna talk about some fun stories and stuff that you already know that you're still interested in listening to again. And then it goes to the bottom stuff, where stuff you don't know back again. So it gets a bit of a deeper dive. So it's really a good format to get interest from all types of fans, no matter what level of no matter how much level of knowledge you have on the subject.
Tap your way ahead to layers 3 and 4. Many of you could use a reminder on some of these topics, and I'll be sure to add some fun asides as well as some fun facts. You may even come out of this video with new knowledge on something you previously assumed you knew everything about. I also want to note that I am not covering anything from the previous iceberg, so if you're wondering why I left off some maybe obvious entries, that's why.
Yeah, I probably haven't seen. I don't know if I should react to the first one. This was the one I just saw. It was an hour and a half long. So I was like, okay, this one probably has a deep dive. So if there's any more topics that were on the other iceberg that I should see, maybe I should see the other one, or I just watch videos on them. But yeah. So
whether you're just getting into this great game, or are someone who can name every player on the 1968 Washington Senators, I welcome you to the everything you need to know about Major League Baseball iceberg. But before we begin, I want to give a quick shout out to SeatGeek. I'm not going to bore you with the talk.
We're using the video for my video, so we're going to let the ad play through here.
Points.
Use code No More Fielders, get $20 for their first SeatGeek order.
you already understand that SeatGeek is a ticket app that lets you know if you're getting a good deal on your tickets using their comparative rating system. But if you want to help out the channel while also helping your wallet this baseball season, use code NOMOREFIELDERS at checkout to get $20 off your first SeatGeek order. That is code NOMOREFIELDERS. It is also in the description for your pasting convenience. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. I'm going to be posting a lot of cool stuff this season, and I'd love for you to be a part of this. Okay, onto the iceberg.
So starting off, we're gonna be starting off, I guess, with the outsider tier. Yeah, I think that most of this is just basic, MLB terminology and stuff. Strike zone, hit, earned run average. Shohei Ohtani, I know. People say he's like the best baseball player right now. And potentially people say like all time. I don't know what Ghost Runner is. Not gonna lie to you. I don't watch many MLB games. I just know I've just seen like some YouTube videos explaining stuff. Fastball, Fanatic uniforms, bunt, home run, stolen base, batting stance, umpire. I don't know who Ronald Acuna is. Strikeout, changeup, pitch clock, MLB The Show is the video game. Walk, error, out, double play, double, triple. Okay, yeah, most of it just normal terminology and stuff.
The strike zone is essentially the medium in which hitters and pitchers conduct their battle. Anything thrown by the pitcher within the boundaries of this invisible plane is called a strike. Anything outside of it is a ball. 3 strikes you're out, 4 balls take your base. So if this zone is in fact invisible, how do we know what constitutes being part of the strike zone? Well, horizontally, the strike zone is just across the plate. And vertically, the top of the strike zone is the midpoint between the top of the batter's shoulders and their waistband of their uniform pants, and the bottom boundary is just below their kneecaps. This does mean that smaller players have a smaller strike zone, so whenever you complain about an ump because it's called differed from the stock zone displayed on the TV, just know that it's not a one-size-fits-all. The strike zone actually used to be different too.
Which makes sense, because the strike zone is meant to represent the amount of area that is hittable for the batter. So it makes sense if you're shorter, you have less place that where the ball could go, where you're able to hit it. So yeah, it makes sense.
At one point, it went from the top of their shoulders to their knees, eventually down to their armpits, then to the midpoint around the torso we are all supposedly familiar with today. A hit is the result of a batter striking the ball in fair territory and reaching safely without the benefit of a fielder's error or fielder's choice. Hits can take many shapes and sizes. The most common type of hit is a single, where the runner reaches safely on first. We will cover all other hit types shortly. Earned run average is the stat most commonly used to evaluate pitchers. You'll often see it short.
I gotta say, so back in my day, right, in my heyday of elementary school, I played baseball for 2 years, I think, or like a year and a half or something, of elementary school, like kid baseball, right? And my entire career, I only hit the ball in the actual game 2 times. 2 times. One time I hit the ball, I ran to first base, they counted me out, but someone was filming it, and it is very clear on film that I made that base, okay? My 3rd grade ass was running his ass off and made that base, okay? Absolute bullshit from the referee, okay, from the umpire. I made that base, okay? And the second time was a walk-off home run. Come on now. What do you know about that? So yeah, I've only hit the ball, my entire baseball career, I only hit the ball twice in an actual official organized game, and one time I got cheated, and the other time I hit a game-winning home run. Come on now. We're just like that around here.
To ERA.
So, yeah.
Essentially, it is the average number of runs they are giving up per 9 innings, the length of a regulation game. The value of this stat can change, but typically an ERA above 6 is near unplayable, above 5 is bad, above 4 is average, between 3 and 4 is good, between 2 and 3 is elite, and between 1 and 2 is considered near impossible for a starter and elite for a reliever. Shohei Ohtani is the current face of the game. There is actually no argument about that. Many outsiders will hear the phrase modern-day Babe Ruth thrown around because just like the Babe, Ohtani is able to pitch and hit at an elite.
I have a question. So how do baseball fans view Babe Ruth when we're talking about like greatest of all time discussions and stuff? Because in basketball discussions, older players get a huge tax on them by a lot of people based on how long ago they played. And basketball's way newer than baseball. Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell get a lot of tax thrown on them because they played, plumbers and firemen, allegedly, and they played in the 1960s. Babe Ruth playing around in the 20s, dude. Babe Ruth playing around before the Nazis came up. I mean, I imagine, but, like, I also hear his name, he's like the main name here talked about when people are discussing the greatest baseball player of all time. Him, Barry Bonds, and in even modern days, some people are throwing out Shohei Ohtani's name. So I want to do like baseball players like not care about the how old ago it was, or do people put like a big tax on him in like GOAT discussions because he played at the goddamn 1920s? I'm just wondering how other people who's like, oh, Babe Ruth would be the guy on the sideline selling hot dogs if he played today. I don't know, but just wondering about that in the baseball community, because it's definitely like that in the basketball community. There's people disrespecting the 1990s, saying it was plumbers and firemen in the 1990s that Michael Jordan played against. So I can only imagine what people, at least NBA fans, would be saying if they were if they were talking about discussions about players in the 1920s.
Level. But many of us dorks consider that comparison to actually undermine what Ohtani has been able to do. For one, Ruth gave up pitching full-time in 1919, while for the past 3 seasons, Ohtani did both simultaneously at an elite level. Another is that the game is just so much more competitive nowadays. Old heads are going to get mad at me for saying this, but the overall level of the game...
Okay, so here we go. Now he's making the argument, the plumbers and firemen argument.
game Ruth played would be comparable
in a more respectful way, but still
to AAA now. Ohtani did have an undisclosed surgery on his elbow and won't be pitching this season. But after signing the largest contract in MLB history with the Los Angeles Dodgers, he is going to be making
insane $700 million contract.
Making a splash on one of baseball's best teams. And now he's wrapped up in an illegal gambling conspiracy. You gotta love this game, folks. During the COVID season, in order to speed up games, MLB introduced the Ghost Runner, which really isn't a ghost runner. It's a person who actually exists, who is placed on second in extra innings. The runner always being the player who made the final out the inning before. This rule kinda just stuck around and is not going anywhere anytime soon. Players seem happy with it, as well as the owners, maybe the only thing they can actually agree on.
Is this like something to like speed up games, maybe? I don't know what the reason of this is. Is this just to like speed up the games, like get a score quicker, so that we don't go like 20 innings, like a 10-hour game?
Personally, I believe they should play 3 clean innings and extras before sticking a runner on second, just because it does ruin some of the allure of a team needing to mount a final rally in order to win, and it makes walk-offs feel less impactful. The fastball is the most commonly thrown pitch. There are many different variations to it: the two-seamer, sinker, and cutter. Every one of these is created by the pitcher changing his grip and sometimes final action, aka flick of the wrist, to influence the movement. But the most common type of fastball is the four-seamer. Back in the day, a pitcher who could touch 95 was considered a flamethrower. Now, guys are routinely hitting 99 and even 100 miles per hour. Think about
when people are talking about what's the hardest thing to do in like mainline sports, I think throwing a 100 mile per hour fastball consistently and being able to hit a fastball in the MLB are like 2 of the hardest things you could possibly do in all of sports, because I've seen a video of like, you do the math on it, you have literally like a quarter of 1 second maybe to decide if you're gonna swing or not, to hit a fastball and to get it accurate. And I mean, dude, you ever like skip rocks in a lake? Your arm hurts just throwing rocks after a little bit, let alone you're not throwing them 100 miles per hour and trying to be precise with it and making strategy and everything, and then then going on to bat afterwards. I mean, pitchers are ridiculously insane. So like, I don't know, maybe it's just I'm out of tune with the sport. I just think everything's like super difficult that happens. But yeah, I mean, I just think it's ridiculously insane, the talent of just mainly those 2 things in the sport.
About that for a second. What's the fastest you've ever driven in a car? Guys in MLB are throwing a baseball faster than that. Fanatics is the company currently in charge of manufacturing the MLB uniforms as of the 2024 season. After Majestic was the manufacturer from 2005 to 2019, often considered a high point in jersey quality, they were replaced by Nike starting in 2020. But after 2023, Fanatics, who bought Majestic in 2017, was put in charge of producing player uniforms, and the results so far have been mixed. We're talking about arch lettering, heat-pressed logos instead of embroidered, and see-through pants, which actually some fans have appreciated. We will see how they fare as the season progresses, but so far both players and fans alike have not been new uniform fanatics. A bunt is where a hitter, instead of swinging at a pitch, decides to drop his bat head over the plate and tap the ball in play. Some hitters in years past, such as Ichiro, have excelled in using this as a weapon in order to...
I mean, yeah, 'cause he's so goddamn fast, bro. By the time you've even picked it up when it's right in front of him, he's already to the damn base, dude. I mean, yeah.
To exploit a weaker defense to get on base. Most of the time, it's been used as a strategic device to move a runner over, but it has gone out of style with pretty much every analytical project conducted on it concluding that an out is more valuable than advancing the runner. A home run is when a hitter hits the ball past the outfield in fair territory, or in some rare cases, is able to reach home safely on a ball hit in play. It is the most impactful result and typically what you're going to see up and down highlight reels. It scores every runner on base, and there's something viscerally satisfying about seeing someone hit a ball over 400 feet. I would say for a full season, 30 is the mark that is typically associated with a player being a predominant home run hitter.
Okay, let me say something like this. Okay, let me say something about this. Here's something that doesn't make sense to me about MLB. Why does your stadium get to decide what and what isn't a home run? Like, stadiums have different sizes, right? Where some stadiums you have to hit the ball further for it to actually be a home run, and some you have to hit it, a shorter distance. So the teams that are at home, who have longer home run hits, they're just absolutely screwed, because half their games they have to hit it further to hit a home run. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. It's, like, I can't imagine something like that happening in the NBA. Like, can you imagine, like, some hoops are just, you go to some courts and some of their hoops are just a little bit shorter, or, like, some of their three-point lines are just a bit longer, and players just get screwed because half their games, they have to, like, step back, like, 30 feet for a three. Like, it just doesn't seem like something that would ever happen in any other sport. I don't know. It's just very weird to me.
I could honestly just watch home runs being hit all day, but I do want to emphasize for you outsiders that it's not the only thing that makes baseball awesome, but it is up there. A stolen base is when a base runner is able to advance without any intervention from the batter or defensive error. Most typically they occur when the pitcher is throwing a pitch, but players like Ronald Acuna Jr. are redefining it by also catching the defense sleeping. Stolen bases fell out of fashion for a few years, but now because of the bigger bases and the new pickoff rule, which limits the pitcher attempting to pick off a runner to only 3 times per at-bat, stolen base attempts skyrocketed last year, and should continue to increase in the coming seasons. A batting stance is the body position a hitter takes as he prepares to be thrown a pitch. All hitters have a unique stance. It essentially is the first form in the complex sequence of motions required to swing a bat. It's important in that it determines where a batter holds their elbows, shoulders, hands, and positions their legs. Honestly, it's one of my favorite aspects.
That's a unique stance right there.
Of the game. Some hitters such as Mike Trout have simple elementary stances. Some hitters like Kevin Youkilis back in the day had such intricate stances that defied common wisdom. And some hitters like Jose Martinez and Gary Sheffield had such violent stances which saw them in constant motion as they awaited the pitch. If you've made it this far, comment your favorite batting stance below. Umpires are the game officiator.
I like seeing those unique pitching stances, or like people who have they pitch the ball like in a weird stance. I don't know. I've seen a video like that, and I like things like that because like the way they contort their arms a lot of the times when they pitch, and like you always get like some weird angles. If you have a weird pitching style, there's like great like single frames you could take of like them in like the most weird contorted position while throwing this damn ball.
One sits behind home plate calling balls and strikes, and plays at home, while there are another 3 umpires placed at first, second, and third. In the postseason, you will see an additional 2 umpires placed along the foul lines in the outfield. A general rule of thumb is that if you haven't heard of an umpire, then that probably means they're good at their job. Ronald Acuna.
Yeah, same thing in the NBA. I think same thing in all sports. If you know a ref or umpire or anything's name, bad sign, very bad sign if you know their name. In the NBA, your Scott Fosters, your Tony Brothers. You don't want to know the ref or umpire's name. You don't want to know their name. It's a very bad sign.
Jr. is the right field.
No one ever goes on Twitter and is like, you know what, this ref's name did a fantastic job. No one ever says that. They only ever mention their name when they're very mad at them.
For the Atlanta Braves. He is arguably the best player in baseball as long as Shohei Ohtani is unable to pitch. He has a deadly combination of power, speed, contact ability.
That's crazy. Okay, I gotta get up with modern baseball then. So I gotta keep up with this, man. We're gonna do this MLB deep dive. Second best player in the world, Ronald Acuna Jr. Let's go.
And plate discipline. He won last year's National League MVP as he became the first player to join the 40-70 club. 40 homers, 70 stolen bases, and he is in a good position to do it again as long as he stays healthy. A strikeout occurs when a hitter reaches 3 strikes. Now, strike 3 is a little different from strikes 1 and 2, as a foul ball is considered a strike until the count reaches strike 2. Then the batter can hit infinite foul balls without fear of striking out. To get to strike 3, a pitcher either has to generate a swing and a miss from the hitter, or they have to get a called third strike. This generation has seen a boom in strikeout pitchers such as Spencer Strider, Garrett Cole, and Corbin Burns. A changeup is a pitch meant to deceive the hitter in that it looks like a fastball coming out of the hand, but because of the pitcher manipulating the grip on the baseball, arrives at the plate a lot slower than a fastball. Pitchers with elite changeups are able to fool hitters into swinging early, and bonus points if the changeup has sinking action. Pitchers that are considered to have devastating changeup nowadays are Giant starter Logan Webb, Brewers.
This is probably one of the best abilities you can have as a pitcher, right? Other than just being able to throw the ball hella fast, you know?
Reliever Devin Williams, and Royal starter Cole Reagans. The pitch clock was instituted after the 2022 season and gives the pitcher 15 seconds to start their windup with no runners on and 20 seconds, now 18, with runners on base. The hitter also has to...
I do about this, and I know some people were really mad about this because they didn't seem it was necessary, but yeah, it was mainly made to speed up MLB games, because I knew MLB games are insanely long. Like, if you want to go back and watch an MLB game that's, like, already happened, probably not a good decision. It's, like, they're, like, really long.
Gauge the pitcher, aka getting into their batting stance more or less, with 8 seconds left on the clock. Failure to do so results in either a strike on the batter, or a ball is charged to the pitcher. MLB The Show has been the official video game for Major League Baseball since 2014. I haven't really played it much since 2022, but according to the community, the game itself hasn't really changed since 2016. Many prominent YouTubers such as Fuzzy and Draftnik Mark got their start by playing Diamond Dynasty. It's a really fun game. Antithetical to the strikeout,
is it like better than 2K? People complain about. I mean, I'm guessing it's the same thing with all these sports games, that they just kind of release the same thing every year and expect you to still like it. But yeah.
Walk is when a hitter receives 4 balls. Many hitters are renowned for their ability to draw walks, such as Juan Soto, and even though many people believe them to be boring, I find them fascinating. Essentially, think of it as a hitter winning the chess match that is their duel with the pitcher without having to put the ball in play.
I know, a famous video by John Boyce where he's talking about Barry Bonds. Pitchers were so scared to pitch at him because he hit so many home runs. They were so scared to pitch at him that he got walked a ridiculous amount of times, like compared to every other person, not even close, because they were just he instilled so much fear in them. They intentionally walked him so goddamn often. Because they would rather him just go to first base than even have the risk of him hitting a home run. That's how big of a risk it was.
An error is when a fielder fails to make a play that the scorer believes they should have been able to make. Typically, they have to touch the ball in order for it to be scored an error. But in recent years, the value of judging a player based on how many errors they commit has fallen out of vogue, as sometimes a player is charged with an error on a near impossible play just because they were able to catch up to the ball when 99% of the league would be unable to. An out is the opposite of a hit.
You kind of get put back for being so good, kind of there. It's like counting you losing in the finals. Well, you got to the finals in the first place, so why is that a bad thing, Yeah, same thing. I was able to get to the ball when 99% of players couldn't, but it still counted as an error because for some reason now I'm expected to do the whole play when it's like, well, it should have been an outstanding play that I even got to this point.
Or a walk. It's when a hitter or runner is retired by the defense. Just like hits, outs can take many shapes and sizes. This is an out, so is this, and look at this out.
Oh. Dang, bro, you
can't
even try to run, my guy. Not even an attempt there.
Is forced out at first after the ball is put into play if they don't reach it safely by the time the defense touches the bag. Or a runner can be forced out at any other base if there's a runner behind them that needs to occupy the base they are on. For example, a runner on first can be forced out at second after the ball is put into play by the hitter who is now running to first. Or a runner on third can be forced out at home if the bases are loaded by the runner going from second to third. Each team gets 27 outs to start a game, divided by 9 innings to get 3 outs per inning. A double play occurs when 2 outs are made on a single play. The most typical is the aforementioned getting a force out at second with a runner on first, then getting a force out on the hitter running to first. But over the years, we've seen some unconventional double plays, the most common being a strike 'em out, throw 'em out. when a potential base stealer is thrown out
yeah.
after a pitcher gets strike 3 on the batter. Or when a fielder catches the line drive and steps on the bag previously occupied by the runner for a force out. A double is when a hitter safely reaches second base on a hit. A triple is when a hitter safely reaches third base on a hit. And now you know about every hit type.
Here we go, boys. We're so good. I already knew about the hit types. So yeah, no new knowledge there, but it's mainly just stuff about MLB Pacific that I didn't know. I know baseball. It's mainly MLB Pacific stuff that I really don't know that much about.
Moneyball is a 2011 movie starring Brad Pitt and tells the real-life story of Oakland Athletics GM Billy Beane when, in 2002, he found himself on the cutting edge of player analysis. Based on the 2002 book of the same name, Moneyball does a great job explaining some of the intricacies of new age player evaluation and turned Jonah Hill from Judd Apatow's punching bag to an Academy Award nominee. Ricky Henderson played from 1979 all the way to...
Jonah Hill's the reason Kanye's not anti-Semitic anymore, or at least he said for a time being. I think he is. He's definitely... I think he's back to being it now. I don't know, because Jonah Hill didn't have that much of an effect on him.
That's right, 2003. His debut preceded the Iranian hostage crisis.
Wait, what?
Great job explaining some of the intricacies of new age player evaluation and turned Jonah Hill from Judd Apatow's punching bag to an Academy Award nominee. Ricky Henderson played from 1979 all the way to, that's right, 2003.
Yes, that's more seasons than any NBA player's ever played. That's 24 seasons. So, LeBron just tied the record this season for the most seasons ever played by a player, 22 seasons. LeBron, if he doesn't retire next year, which he very well might, to be fair, he very well might retire next year. If he doesn't retire next year, he'll at least tie Ricky Henderson in seasons played, if not pass him, depending on how long he really wants to go for. But yeah, imagine playing in the 70s and you retire in the 2000s. That's nuts.
Debut preceded the Iranian hostage crisis, and he retired the same year Arrested Development premiered. His all-time stolen base record of 1,406 is considered unbreakable, even with the current stealing environment, and he is considered one of the most...
I mean, yeah, anything that you were really good at when you have longevity like that, your record's not going to get remotely touched. Like with John Stockton's assist record, he was arguably most assists per game of all time, in like several seasons, but, and he played for so goddamn long, his record's unbreakable, even if you do, have ridiculous amounts of assists. You'd have to also have his ridiculous longevity combined with it.
Most beloved players.
And, LeBron's scoring record.
Players of all time, not just for his exceptional Inner Circle Hall of Fame play, but for possessing one of the most unique personalities in the game. He talked exclusively in third person, and praised his New York flat because he was...
That's funny, I gotta say. Talking in third person is incredibly funny.
...able to see the entire state building. A save is a stat wherein a pitcher comes into a game with a lead of no more than 3 runs and preserves the lead to finish the game. There are a few other ways a pitcher can qualify for a save, either pitching 3 or more innings to close out a victory regardless of score, or if they come in with the potential game-tying run on the bases or in the on-deck circle. The saying was thrown around as far back as 1952 to credit a pitcher who took over for the starter and finished the game with the lead intact, but was given the official parameters stated above by Jerome Holtzman in 1960, becoming an officially kept statistic in 1969. Today, saves are seen more as a byproduct of reliever usage than an actual indicator of value. So if you ever try to use saves as an argument for why one reliever is better than the other, you will get laughed out the room. I'm just warning you here. On May 7th, 2016, Mets pitcher Bartolo Colon, who had already become something of a laughing donkey for just how bad of a hitter he was, launched a home run off of James Shields. This made him the oldest player to ever hit his first career home run in one of the most improbable moments in MLB history. Whenever someone uses the old adage, you see something new every day on the diamond, this is what they mean.
Malachi Flynn hit, dude.
Jeff Passan is a writer and on-screen reporter for ESPN. He is considered the most reliable source.
He's got good music taste, bro. He's got okay computer back there.
for breaking news, and also has great taste in music. Just
Hey,
don't
he agreed.
try to get into it with him on Twitter. A no-hitter is when an individual pitcher or pitchers are able to record all 27 outs without giving up a hit to the opposition. Typically, a pitcher throwing a no-hitter past the 7th inning is left in the game to finish what he started. But in recent years, with more care being given to pitchers' health, we've seen an increase in combined no-hitters, which, let's be honest, aren't as cool. The
Yeah, definitely aren't as cool, but it's the same thing in NBA. The more insane the sport gets, with time, you're gonna care, but injuries are gonna happen more, so you're gonna care about the health more. Same reason why Wilt Chamberlain in the '60s in the NBA was able to play 48 minutes a game, and now no one even plays. If you're playing 40 minutes a game, your coach is insane. Cop, Tom Thibodeau.
Giants-Dodgers rivalry dates all the way back to the late 1800s when both teams were still in New York. Their rivalry stemmed initially from class warfare, as the Giants were seen as pompous cows from upstate, while the Brooklyn Dodgers fans were looked at as the working class proletariat. They had some memorable pennant races, one of which we will get to later.
Like the proletariat wordage there.
The rivalry seemed to reach its end after Dodgers owner Walter O'Malley decided to move the team to Los Angeles following the 1957 season. But the Giants followed right behind them as they took their rivalry across I-80. The
Dang.
rivalry itself has waned in recent years, as both teams have traded off being good, but had a nice reclamation when they met in the 2021 NLDS after the 107-win Miracle Giants knocked the Dodgers to take the NL West, but ultimately fell to them in 5 games. Angel Hernandez is considered the worst umpire in baseball. He routinely misses some of the
Joey Crawford of baseball.
easiest calls, and his ego has been a problem for players and managers alike. My favorite part of Angel Hernandez is when he sued Major League Baseball for racial discrimination in 2017 when they didn't assign him to officiate any games for the playoffs that year. He lost because a judge ruled that he had not, and I quote, demonstrated the leadership ability and situation management skills in critical high-pressure roles on a
Dang, the judge ruled, nah, bro, this wasn't racial discrimination. You're just bad at your job, duh. That's a crazy thing for a judge to rule.
consistent basis, before appealing and losing again in 2023.
Back-to-back L's, bro. That's tough, man. That's tough.
That's right, the US court system officially ruled against Hernandez on the basis that he is a bad umpire. I'm not going to cover every baseball fight in existence.
So if you call him a bad umpire, that's no longer a biased opinion. That is officially, by law, he is considered a bad umpire.
And the previous Iceberg has most of the memorable ones, but I wanted to cover this instant classic from the 2023 season between Jose Ramirez and Tim Anderson. The altercation
I love watching these. I used to watch John Boy. You probably know him if you watch baseball. A baseball YouTuber do these breakdowns of them, and they're yeah, a lot of funny fights in baseball. A lot of very funny ones.
had been brewing prior because Jose Ramirez took exception to how Tim Anderson was aggressively tagging some of the younger Guardians players. Whether you think Jose was right or not, he undeniably made his point heard when he got what is now officially the cleanest hit since Rougned Odor struck Jose Bautista in 2016. Supplementing the fight was one of the greatest calls in MLB history.
It's rare to get a fight in sports where someone actually gets a clean hit. They always break it up way too fast.
By Tom Hamilton.
Down goes Anderson! Down goes Anderson!
And keeping in turn with instantly classic moments from the previous season, Aaron Judge destroyed a portion of the right field fence at Dodger Stadium in a June game, further adding to the mysticism of a player who set the Yankees' all-time single-season home run record the year before, and
Insane record to set a franchise record for a team that's so, famous and prolific for having, so many good players.
And everyone freaked out about it. Unfortunately, Aaron Judge did break his toe on the play, missed 2 months, and now has to deal with it for the rest of his career. But hey, broken walls last forever. Just ask my therapist. One of the most unique aspects of baseball is that every stadium
Hey, that's what I was talking about. Yeah, it's just so weird that it just seems like some teams would have to be at a disadvantage, right? With the different dimension to the stadium. I don't know.
has their own dimensions
Maybe it's not
past
that
the
big of a deal.
infield. Now, there are limits to what stadiums are allowed to do. The only reason you look at Fenway Park and see all of that is because they were granted a historical exception. But Fenway didn't even have the craziest dimensions of its time. MLB The Show players are familiar with the power alleys of Polo Grounds. But let's not forget the Baker Bowl, whose right field went out, do I have this right? Only 290 feet. According to MLB.com,
Yeah, it just seems like you would have to change your strategy every game depending on what field you're in, you know? It's like, what?
modern stadiums need to construct walls that are at least 325 feet at a minimum from home plate, and center field needs to be at least 400 feet away. Other than that, stadium designers are allowed to build the outfield as they see fit. A lot of stadiums are obsessed with their big walls, such as Camden Yards, Truist Park, and Target Field. Teams also generally try to field rosters whose profiles mesh with their home stadiums. Historically, the Yankees have had a need for lefty pull hitters like Didi Gregorius that can take advantage of their short porch and right, or teams like the Mariners drafting strike.
Yeah, you literally have to you have to put your whole strategy of who you even have on your damn team. Because just how the way your stadium's made, it just seems so weird to me. It's just something so foreign.
Out/fly ball pitchers to accommodate their cozy field dimensions. Spend some time comparing and contrasting all of these fields. It's fun, I promise. We as sports fans, well, me at least, are slightly obsessed with the concept of a dynasty. There's no real definition for it, but I'm just going to use the Roth rule and state I know one when I see one. And the most recent dynasty we have is the Astros of recent vintage. They won a somewhat disputed World Series in 2017,
Another cheating scandal with them banging on trash cans.
made it to the 2018 ALCS, 2019 World Series, 2020 ALCS, 2021 World Series, won the 2022 World Series, while maintaining a somewhat consistent cast of characters such as Jose Altuve, Justin Verlander, and Alex Bregman throughout. If that isn't a dynasty, then I don't know what is.
I don't know if that's a dynasty. I think most people, at least in NBA, I feel like if you don't win at least 3, you're not really considered a dynasty. Maybe it's different in MLB. Maybe teams win, not as much like that as NBA teams do, of having long streaks of, winning like that. I mean, they didn't make the World Series multiple times, but they only won 2. So I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I think most people consider having at least 3 rings over a time period as a dynasty, but I don't know, maybe it's different in MLB.
The World Baseball Classic is an international tournament ran by the WBSC and MLBPA in March every 4 years, even though COVID screwed the schedule up a bit. While many talented players, especially pitchers, opt out of the tournament, it is generally regarded as the best collection of international baseball talent competing for their countries. It started as a response.
It's like basically the baseball Olympics, because baseball isn't in the Olympics, I'm pretty sure, but yeah, it's definitely not. But yeah, this is basically the baseball Olympics here.
To countries not being able to field their best Olympic baseball.
Didn't Japan beat America in this, like, not that long ago? I'm pretty sure. I know about that.
Teams since it interfered with the regular season, and has since taken off as a staple in the baseball world. Some players even claim that winning the World Baseball Classic is more important to them than winning the World Series. So do with that information what you will. Right now, Japan leads the way with 3 WBC crowns, while the United States and Dominican Republic split 1 apiece.
That's insane. Maybe it's because a lot of American players opt out, but like baseball is considered like an American sport. And for them to have 1 compared to Japan having 3 and the Dominican Republic also having 1, it really just shows, I'm telling you, the more sports become international, the less America seems impressive.
The next World Baseball Classic is scheduled for 2026, and I, for one, cannot wait. Out of the 4 major sports, Major League Baseball has the active, longest repeat championship drought. The 2000 Yankees were the last to do it, and honestly, with the chaos that is the current.
Okay, so I can see that then them considering the Astros a dynasty, because the last team to repeat, even when back-to-back was so long ago, over 20 years ago, when in the NBA, since 2000, we've had the Lakers who three-peated, then you had the Lakers going back-to-back again, over the Heat going back-to-back, then over all that time you had the Spurs winning 5 championships, and then you have the Warriors going back-to-back and winning 4 championships in 8 seasons. So yeah, I can definitely see an MLB with them being a lot less repeat champions. I can definitely see them seeing the Astros as a dynasty. So yeah, just update on that one.
Current playoff system, I believe it is going to be a while before a team repeats. Do the 2024 Rangers have what it takes to do it? I don't think so. We'll check back in October and see how well this statement aged. Unique to baseball, some hitters opt to hit from both sides of the plate. There is a such thing as a platoon advantage. What do I mean by this? Well, right-handed hitters.
Is there any like ambidextrous NBA players? I'm thinking about this because this seems like it'd be a big advantage in baseball if you could hit both right-handed and left-handed. It seems like it'd be a big advantage to like get one. You know, the pitcher can't really make a certain strategy on you. You know, seems like it'd be a really good skill to have or trait to have. I don't know if there's any ambidextrous NBA shooters like who can shoot from both right and left. I don't know.
Tend to fare better
Other than LeBron James.
against
But he mainly shoots right. He mainly shoots right, so he's not like that much of an ambidextrous player, but yeah.
left-handed pitchers and vice versa. The reason is
He's ambidextrous in the fact that LeBron James is left-handed, but uses his right hand for everything in basketball related. So it's like, okay. But he never really uses his primary hand that much, so I don't know.
that they are given a better vantage of the pitcher's delivery from the opposite side, and typically their breaking stuff moves in, which gives the hitter more margin for error than if the pitch breaks away. Some hitters opt to hit from both sides of the plate, depending on what hand the pitcher is throwing from, effectively always giving them the platoon advantage. Some of the greatest switch hitters of all time are Mickey Mantle, Chipper Jones, and Jose Ramirez. All played their entire career with the same team, weirdly enough. Baseball Reference is a website
Not loyal to one hand, but loyal to one team, I see.
repository of pretty much
The reference websites for sports are legitimately one of the greatest things human civilization has ever created. Dude, can you imagine watching sports without having the access to these reference websites, dude? They're so goddamn useful. They're like the most useful thing. Every single stat you could possibly think of all in one place for free, not really any ads. Just a fantastic. The reference websites are so good. They're so fantastic.
every player's statistical footprint.
Easy to navigate.
Embarrassingly enough, it is probably the website I have spent most of my time on. They recently introduced a player comparison tool, as you can see here being used to great effect. It's like having unlimited access to the back of every player's baseball card. The turbulent canvassing of the Midwest, oh how we missed them so, is how Sufjan Stevens would describe this rivalry. Just like all baseball rivalries, this one predates your grandparents. Honestly, that makes it pretty cool. Many people
I think a big reason why MLB has such better rivalries than like NBA or maybe even NFL is that they just had so much longer to develop these rivalries. Most of the fantastic MLB rivalries, it seems, were like formed in like the early 1900s. Like they've had 100 years to develop compared to like there's NBA teams that are like only 30 years old. Most NBA teams formed in like the 70s and 80s, so it's like they've had a lot less time to develop all these, insane rivalries.
People discuss baseball's age like it's a bad thing, but the fact that a rivalry that started when Grover fucking Cleveland was president could still cause discomfort
That's fucking insane, yeah, that's actually insane.
between two people from the opposing sides today is kind of awesome when you think about it. The blood runs deep, and as someone who forgot what they ate for lunch yesterday, that type of commitment to the bit is pretty commendable. Besides being division
Yeah, like imagine being able to say that. You have two people, and you're like, my great-great-grandfather hated the Cubs, and so do I. It's been passed through the lineage. Like, that's insane.
rivals,
It's the same thing, I think, in football, in terms of, like, soccer. A lot of the European teams, I'm pretty sure that's also true, because, also just been around a long time, been around forever. Yeah.
haven't had any recent postseason clashes the same way the Giants and Dodgers did, but both teams think they can claim the Central this year, so be on the lookout for that. The sweeper is an exciting new pitch in the Rolodex of tricks that pitchers use to try and get hitters out. Now, the reason it's considered a new pitch isn't necessarily because everyone decided to start trying out a new grip at once, but it's used as a distinction from the slider. With advanced pitch tracking data, many felt it was worth it to distinguish between sliders, as some had a lot more horizontal movement than others. Typically, sweepers are slower and move a lot more than sliders do. Let's do a quick lesson to note the differences between the two pitches, okay? Slider. Sweeper. Slider. Sweeper.
Yeah, it just moves a lot more, mainly.
Sweeper. Got it? Good. Considered the rarest play in baseball, a triple play requires a confluence of factors to occur simultaneously in order for it to happen. 1, there's gotta be 0 outs in the inning. 2, there's gotta be at least 2 base runners on. Can't turn a triple play without 3 victims. And 3, well, the moons of
It's gotta be bad when you hit the ball and it ends up in a triple play. Like, your bat was so bad it ended the entire inning.
Jupiter have to be aligned. But seriously, you need a defense that is completely in sync, and this may be a harsh take, but you need some synapse misfires from a base runner or two to properly execute this play.
The offensive team has to really mess up for this to happen.
The last triple play was turned by the Atlanta Braves against the Red Sox in July of last year, which featured not only one, but 2 boneheaded decisions by the runners. Batting average is a batter's hits divided by their at-bats. That's it. It's fallen out of favor in the last few years, as it doesn't account for walks, nor does it incorporate how much juice they're getting out of each hit. But I don't know, I still get excited when I see a number that begins with a 3 next to a player's batting average. But just like with saves and relievers, if you try to use this number in an argument for which player is better, again, you will get laughed out of the room. This is now unfortunately a dead meme, but still worth mentioning nonetheless. The premise is that the Los Angeles Angels of the larger Orange County Anaheim employed arguably the top 2 players in all of MLB from 2018 to 2023, but somehow managed to stay mediocre. It is a tweet that reads as follows: Mike Trout hit 3 home runs and raised his average to 528, while Shohei Ohtani did something that hasn't been done since Tungsten Armo Doyle of the 1921 Akron Groomsmen, as the Tigers defeated the Angels 8-3.
That's insane. Yeah, MLB is a lot more of a less of an individual sport than NBA. Like NBA, you have 2 guys on the level of Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout at the same time. Like, your default, just having those 2 guys, you're going to be a top 5 team in the NBA. No doubt, right? It's like having Kobe and Shaq on your team. If you have Kobe and Shaq on your team and no one else good, you're at minimum still going to be a top 5 team in the NBA, right? Even if you don't end up winning it. But MLB, you'll have 2 guys, but there's still 7 more people that gotta go bat. You can't have one guy bat more than the other. So, you're still kind of screwed if you have no other good players. You got no one good in the outfield or anything. If you got no good hitters, in your other 7, even if you have 2 fucking guys that are fantastic.
It demonstrates a valuable,
great tweet by the way too, fantastic tweet,
lesson in baseball, and that is a team cannot rely on a few players to be great. And the Angels of the Trout-Ohtani era,
it's like Barry Bonds never won a World Series despite having like the greatest seasons of all time. If that, in NBA it's a lot more different. If you have a Barry Bonds type season, you're at least going to be a top 3 seed.
Will be one of the most infamous examples. Also, just want to note, Tungsten Armo Doyle actually did exist. I swear.
Oh, wow.
Look, there's his Wikipedia page. Don't look it up. He actually did get discovered throwing fruit at street urchins. It's all legit, okay?
I see.
Fact checked it. Paul Sewald is a relief pitcher currently on the Diamondbacks roster. He has a career ERA of 4.06, not great, but he did struggle to find his footing while with the Mets earlier in his career. His arsenal is comprised solely of a fastball that averages 92 miles per hour and a sweeper that doesn't really have great break, but is able to be tunneled well enough with his fastball to be effective. Oh yeah, and it is time for Paul Sewald to pitch. Really, this is another great meme that demonstrates different philosophies of the game. On one side, you have the overly analytical to a point where the margins for victory
yeah, too analytical. This guy, Paul Sewald, he's just like, nah, bro. Here's my strategy. Throw a ball fast.
Are so thin that they might as well be transparent. And the other side that just says, fuck it, let's ride. Really, it's the ongoing battle of modern...
We have to take out this pitcher because his spin rate dropped 1.2% and the ex-Woba on the second lefty and the order increases by 0.079. It's time for Paul Sewald to pitch.
Analytics versus gut instinct encapsulated in a single meme. In addition to the loose wall requirements mentioned earlier, every stadium is required to have a batter's eye in center field. It is usually a dark solid color to contrast that of a baseball, and is placed in center in order for the batter to get the best view possible of the tiny projectile being flung at them anywhere from 70 to 100 miles per hour. So if you ever wonder why fields have limited seats directly in center, that's why.
I actually didn't know that, to be fair. Dedicated fan.
Long live Travis
Gotta start off with Taylor Swift. Very nice.
Kelce and Taylor Swift. Yeah, so in the past year, NFL really got a bird in the hand when it was revealed that Taylor Swift, the biggest pop star in the world, was dating Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce. You had an organized sports league simping for this woman only because she was dating one of their players.
Hey, it was great publicity, I can't lie, great publicity.
And the fact that they knew it was going to get a legion of the world's most dedicated fans interested in their game. Now what if I told you Major League Baseball had their own version of Taylor Swift? That's right. High School Musical 3-star Vanessa Hudgens is not only dating, but married to Tacoma Rainiers shortstop Cole Tucker. Yeah, football gets Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. We get Cole Tucker and Vanessa Hudgens.
Hey man, you gotta take your W's when you take them.
Cole
okay?
Tucker, besides having a great first
This guy, goofy looking guy to say the
name,
least.
was a former first-round pick for the Pittsburgh Pirates. But
What's the NBA equivalent? Is there any NBA equivalent right now? I don't really think there is.
unfortunately, just like many first-round picks before him, he was humbled beyond a reasonable doubt in the majors and is now trying to earn playing time in the Seattle Mariners organization. Put that in MLB's Instagram bio. No! So, Major League Baseball doesn't have any sort of penalty system the way, well, every major sport has, which is just the way I like it. Instead of top-down
Nice, I like that, no text.
punishment, though, we have grassroots retribution in the form of pitchers hitting batters for
Oh.
breaking what they consider the unwritten rules. Some of these unwritten rules include swinging 3 on a pitch when your team has the lead and the game is considered out of reach, bunting to break up a no-hitter, or just spending a little too much time admiring your home run. There used to be a hotly contested debate regarding
It's the same thing across all sports, you know, trying when you basically already won the game, you know, gloating, you know, it's just a bunch of things, you know, that, you know, the same across all sports that are, you know, unwritten rules that you're not meant to do.
the legitimacy of some of these rules, most notably in the 2020 season when we all collectively imagined Fernando Tatis Jr. hitting a grand slam on a 3-0 count against the Rangers while their team was already up by 7 runs. The Rangers took exception to this and retaliated against them later on. I think pitchers who throw at hitters for breaking unwritten rules are soft, but that's just me.
I'd agree with that. That's fucking lame.
That's right. Famed Gators quarterback Tim Tebow was at one point toiling around in the Mets farm system as a left fielder. Now, athletes will athlete. This isn't the first time
Every single time there's an athlete that like plays professionally in 2 sports leagues, it always seems like it's always football and baseball. Like, you know, you had Bo Jackson, you know, Deion Sanders. Like, it just seems like you never see a guy that's in the NBA and MLB. It's always MLB and NFL. Always, if they're professional in both sports. Obviously, you had people that tried to do both, like Michael Jordan, as you can see here. But the only people that have actually made it in both professional sports leagues, it seems like, are people who are in the MLB and the NFL.
prominent figure in another sport tried their hand at baseball. But Tim Tebow was notable in that he actually stuck with it for a while, even getting as far as their AAA affiliate. But alas, he retired in early 2021. He was able to crush a home run in spring training 2020 off of Tigers reliever Alex Wilson, who struck out Shohei Ohtani twice in 2 at-bats. So, you know, there's a fun fact for you. During Game 6 of the 2020 World Series that I guess did happen, Rays starter Blake Snell
Same thing in the NBA bubble championship.
was pitching the game of his life. I mean, he was absolutely hosing the Dodgers. His pitch count was reasonable, but in the bottom of the 6th with 1 out, he was pulled from the game after giving up a single. Reliever Nick Anderson would go on to give up the lead not even 2 batters later. This is the most
Coach decision, yeah, that's a horrific decision
recent
there.
example of what we would call an infamous bad managerial decision, but it speaks deeper about how the role of the starter has changed in recent years. There's been a sort of death of the starting pitcher. 20 years ago, there's no question that Blake Snell is finishing the 6th inning unless the game somehow got away from him. But in today's modern landscape of trying to optimize every matchup, and numbers not exactly favoring starters upon facing the order a 3rd time through, Rays manager Kevin Cash felt it was the right decision to pull Snell, and it backfired. On the topic of changes in the balance of starter-reliever usage, the opener was a concept popularized by the aforementioned Rays when they decided to use relievers to start games in 2018, letting them pitch an inning before either piecing together a full game pitched by the bullpen or putting in an actual starter. The idea is that the opener faces the top of the order, the strongest part of the lineup, before the starter comes in and in a sense lengthens their rope by delaying when they have to face the top of the order a 3rd time, whose production especially increases. Does it work? Well, I'll let you be the judge of that. But
Basically just reversing how you normally do it when you just put one guy in for a long time, then you bring another guy. You start off with the guy, then you do your main guy for a long time.
hey, teams have
I smacked the hell out of my microphone, but yeah.
continued to employ the idea. Hell, the Braves used one in Game 4 of the 2021 World Series, a game they eventually won. And I, for one, actually love the idea that even 150 years later, we're continuing to evolve game strategy. Immaculate Grid is a game that consists of a blank 3x3 grid with either
Oh yeah. yeah. Same thing in NBA. It's always hard to get the really low percentage ones on
their
these.
team, stat, or accolade across the vertical and horizontal bounds. The user has to fill in the grid with players that meet the corresponding criteria. It's a really fun game for people with good memories. It'll even give you a rarity score based on how many other users chose your answers. It's a really addictive daily game in the same vein as Wordle. Back in the day, about 3 years ago, catchers would signal what pitch they wanted their pitcher to throw through sequences using their fingers. This actually created something of a metagame by which if a runner was on second, they could attempt to decipher these sequences and relay them to the hitter so they can get an advantage by knowing which pitch was coming. Nowadays, catchers use a device known as PitchCom to wirelessly relay the pitch, which is received by a speaker that is wrapped around the pitcher's hat. Despite some initial hiccups where pitchers were unable to hear the speakers due to stadium noise, it has been largely praised by its users, and as of 2023, has been adopted by every team.
I don't know. I don't know about this. It seems like it'd be I don't know. I like the human element more of having to do physical hand signs and being able to get caught doing it and stuff. I don't know. It seems like it's a bit too advanced, like it's I don't know. I like the human element more.
At this point, it's largely a necessity for the pitch clock to work. The tech is actually pretty interesting, being initially developed by magicians to assist with their cues during shows. It does take a part of the game away, but I understand why it's necessary. Many credit Jackie Robinson for breaking the color barrier, but his debut didn't mark a clean ending in player segregation. There was a contingent of players who came after who faced the same tribulations as Robinson did, one of whom was Larry Doby, who became the first African-American player to play in the American League for the Cleveland Indians. He made 7 straight All-Star teams from 1949 to 1955, accrued 273 career home runs between his time in the Major and Negro Leagues. He was elected to the Hall of Fame in 1998. The history of the Negro Leagues and the players who helped pave the way to break the color barrier runs deep and is filled with so many great personalities and even better talent. Definitely worth it to take the time to read up on.
Would you say back in the day when they had segregation, they had separate leagues, would you say the Negro League was probably better than the MLB at that point? I mean, not gonna lie, I would probably assume it would be. Just being straight up with you, I would probably assume it would be, but I don't know.
The Cleveland Indians, or the Cleveland Guardians now, a name change that probably should have happened 20 years ago. Their team has the longest active championship drought in Major League Baseball. Their last World Series championship happened in 1948. That's right, their drought...
Dude, their last champ... That's crazy, brother. Your last championship was during the fucking Truman administration, dog.
...is as old as the nation of Israel. Their last chance to end the drought occurred in 2016.
Oh my god, that's a fantastic argument to use against a fucking Zionist. We've been in this land for way longer. Trust me. Yeah, dude, when your nation existed, the Guardians won the World Series, dude. Like
when they made it all the way to the World Series, they faced the Cubs, who at the time...
Yeah. How long do you think the Guardians will go without winning the World Series? Are they... how bad are they? You think they can beat the Cubs' 108-year record of no championships?
Time owned the longest drought, but the Cubs won the series in 7 games. Their chances of winning it all soon are not great. They are able to develop 3 starters like nobody's business and have the best third baseman.
That's crazy, man. When the Cubs won in 1908, Theodore Roosevelt was the U.S. president, and when they won again, it was Barack Obama. That's fucking crazy.
The league in Jose Ramirez, but their outfield is among the weakest position groups currently in baseball. Baseball Savant is a website that specializes in aggregating StatCast data and representing it in easy-to-digest visualizations. If you've ever seen a picture like this with the red circles, it was pulled from Baseball Savant. Honestly, it's an amazing website, and you can sink hours just by looking at Juan Soto's Baseball Savant page alone. Some of my personal favorite features are the StatCast search tool, which I have used to pull many of the clips used in this video, pitcher heat maps, and these line graphs that can show me any statistical story I want to see, including pitch usage, swing percentages, and exit velocities. Pat Venditte is MLB's only known ambidextrous pitcher. We talked about switch hitting earlier, which is an acceptable premise. It's reasonable.
Yeah, I imagine this would be way harder to throw accurately with your offhand. That's ridiculous.
To assume that there are people out there who can swing a bat from both sides, but throwing a baseball with both hands, that's a tall order.
Like the precision to do, people can't even write their own fucking name with their left hand, let alone fucking throw a ball accurately at 100 miles an hour.
Well, Pat Venditte spat in the face of that limitation. His ability actually forced the hand of Major League Baseball, who created what became known as the Venditte rule, which required him to declare what hand he wanted to throw with before every at-bat.
That's lame. That's lame.
And to stick with that,
he should be able to use his advantage. That's lame.
That hand throughout, unless he were to suffer an injury on that side. His Major League career wasn't great, but hopefully he paved the way for MLB's first truly dominant ambidextrous pitcher. Walking back to the Negro Leagues for a second, Josh Gibson was considered to be the greatest slugger of his day, reportedly hitting a baseball about 500 feet during a game at Yankee Stadium. From the numbers that have been verified, yeah, he was amazing. In 162 games from 1937 to 1942, he posted a .767 slugging percentage for the Homestead Grays. For reference, that's 81 points greater than Aaron Judge's career high. Ulnar collateral ligament reconstruction, or Tommy John surgery, is a procedure that is required when a pitcher tears their ulnar collateral ligament, or just the UCL, in their elbow. The procedure sees the surgeon taking a tendon either from a deceased donor or from another part of the pitcher's body, such as their wrist, hamstring, sometimes even their toe, and uses it to replace the damaged tendon. The procedure was conceived by Frank Jobe, but is named after former pitcher Tommy John, the first successful patient of the operation. Today,
I didn't know it was actually named after a pitcher.
With the increasing reliance on elbow torque being used to get the most out of every pitch, Tommy John is almost a given for hard throwers, as about a quarter of currently rostered Major League pitchers have received the surgery. A more recent controversy, this term came from Dr. Meredith Willis, who conducted an examination.
Yeah, pitcher is one of the most dangerous positions you can play in any sport, though. 25% having that ridiculous surgery. That's nuts.
Of baseballs from 2022 and found that the league used 3 distinct types of balls that season. One being the heavier dead balls, the lighter juiced balls, and the Goldilocks balls that weren't too heavy, weren't too light, fit just right. She found that the balls in the Goldilocks weight range were used in special instances, such as the All-Star Game, postseason, and commemorative games. However, a few of them were used exclusively for regular Yankees games. And remember, this was 2022, the same year that Aaron Judge, hit 62 homers that year, breaking his team's franchise record, which got everyone across the sport so excited for some reason. Now, so much has been debated about the ball manufacturing process, especially since Major League Baseball
Yeah, it just seems like why wouldn't you just make one uniform ball? It just seems really dumb.
took over Rawlings, the company who manufactures the balls, in 2018. There's a lot of conspiracies out there, some even coming from players, so just be warned. Examine upon your own discretion.
I mean, it makes sense why they would, lean towards helping the Yankees. They're the biggest team in the biggest market.
But intentional manipulation of the baseball is a fascinating subject to keep an eye on. Bobby Bonilla Day is a celebrated baseball tradition that occurs July 1st of every year. Essentially, it is the day the Mets pay former player Bobby Bonilla $1.1 million, and they are set to do so until 2035. Bobby Bonilla played his final
Great contract.
Game in 2001. Really, the idea of spreading out a player's payout past the length of the contract or deferring their money is nothing new. Hell, Shohei Ohtani is going to be paid by the Dodgers until 2043. But this one gets special attention because 1, it's the Mets. 2, the reason they decided to defer the money was because Mets ownership was
It's the same thing with the Lakers. The Lakers just stopped paying Luol Deng like a few years ago. in 2021 or 2, they just stopped paying Luol Deng. I think the same with Kevin Garnett. I think Kevin Garnett got stopped paid by the Celtics in the 2020s, which is insane.
Optimistic about their future cash growth based on the reports they received from their financial advisor, who was convicted scam artist Bernie Madoff. so be sure to wish your friends a happy Bobby Bonilla Day come this July 1st.
Of course.
Slugging percentage is the amount of total bases a player accumulates divided by their at-bats. Essentially, it gives you a number to represent a hitter's in-game power. Again, results vary based on run environment, but general principle states that slugging under 400 is bad, under 450 is okay, between 450 to 500 is good, above 500 is all-star, and anything about 575 and beyond is top shelf power. The slightly more well-educated brother of slugging percentage. On-base percentage is the amount of times a player gets on base divided by total plate appearances. The difference in plate appearances from at-bats, by the way, is that walks, hit by pitches, and sacrifices aren't counted as at-bats. This stat represents how good a player is at not making outs. Under 300 is considered bad, 300 to 325 is average, 325 to 350 is good, anything above 350 is all-star, and 400 or above is considered elite. This is where Immaculate Grid got its namesake from. An immaculate inning is when a pitcher gets 3 strikeouts in an inning on 9 straight strikes. While not really a feat that pitchers are striving for, such as a no-hitter, it is considered one of the rarest noted occurrences in the game, being accomplished by greats such as Bob Gibson, Felix Hernandez, and Colin Holderman. Ump Scorecard is an independently ran repository of home plate umpire data analysis.
Do we have something like this for NBA? Because this is a really good idea to track the fucking umpires and if they would make an NBA version of the refs. Because if they made an NBA version of this, I would really love to see the stats. Would really love to see the stats on this, dude.
According to their website, it is used to measure the accuracy, consistency, and favor of MLB umpires. It was founded by Ethan Singer in 2019 and has since become the most popular method for fans to evaluate umpire performances. They automate these neat little graphics for every game. Obviously, their methodology is inherently biased and can be tweaked depending on what individuals value more. But this is the closest the public has to being able to peek under the hood and really get a glimpse to see how well umps are doing at their job. The knuckleball is a largely extinct pitch that is gripped and thrown in a way to reduce the spin of the ball as to create a floating effect in order to fool hitters. Typically, pitchers who throw the knuckleball make it their primary pitch, and they become knuckleballers out of necessity rather than convenience. Knuckleball legend Tim Wakefield started throwing it because he realized he was unlikely to stick it at first base. Cy Young Award-winning knuckleball artist R.A. Dickey started throwing it because he was literally missing the ulnar collateral ligament in his right arm. The knuckleball
Pretty good reason.
relies on the chaos of the universe to be effective.
Probably a good way to prevent yourself from getting that Tommy John surgery.
Literally something as insignificant as the humidity can control the effectiveness of a knuckleball on any given day. Nowadays, teams don't trust the uncontrollable order of the universe for their success, and as a result, the knuckleball is largely dead. Save us, Matt Waldron. You're our only hope. Jackson Holliday is currently a shortstop in the Baltimore Orioles farm system and is the #1 ranked prospect in all of baseball. Son of former major leaguer Matt Holliday, he is someone to watch as many believe he is ready for big league action at the young age of 20. TJ Friedl is the center fielder for the Cincinnati Reds. I just wanted to highlight him because he's an example of a player who is able to succeed despite possessing a different set of skills that we expect from our all-stars. He's not a huge guy at 5'10", 180 pounds, but he has an amazing awareness of the strike zone. And even though he doesn't have blazing speed, he's able to pick his spots to gain the extra base while playing amazing defense at a premium position. He's just a player I look forward to watching whenever I get the chance, and I believe every fan should have their version of TJ Friedl.
For the Mavs, that was for a while Dorian Finney-Smith.
The relationship between Latin amateurs and Major League Baseball is murky at best. I'm not going to go into all the exploitative details, and I don't want this entry to reflect poorly on Latin players who are just doing what they can to get an edge and be able to secure life-changing money. One of the biggest edges they try to gain is lying about their age in order to improve.
This was a big thing with a lot of African players in the NBA. Like, people say Manute Bol was actually like a 40-year-old man.
Press scouts.
Thon Maker.
Being a 6-foot behemoth is a lot more noteworthy at 16 than it is at 19. This used to be a huge problem in the late 90s and early 2000s with players such as
Hey, you gotta respect it though, you know? You gotta do what you gotta do.
Miguel Tejada admitting to lying about their age, but since was quashed by an investigative unit commissioned by Major League Baseball. However, in recent years it has flared up again, leading to swaths of nullified contracts. Considered one of the greatest hitters of all time, upon his death in 2002, Ted Williams' body was decapitated and cryogenically frozen by Alcor Life Extension in Scottsdale, Arizona. Alcor Life Extension is a rabbit hole in of itself, but essentially their company works on the premise that medically induced resurrection will be discovered and that someone who passed away can be brought back to life as long as their body and brain are...
Okay, I understand that. I understand the whole cryogenically frozen hypothesis, but like, why would you decapitate him? Isn't the whole point of being cryogenically frozen so your body stays intact, so when they do create the technology, they can bring you back and your body's alright? Why would you decapitate him? Now, if the technology comes back, he's going to be walking around with no head. You got to hope that they also create the technology to restore his whole body back with his head, no? Like, why would you do that? I don't understand the whole decapitating part of this.
Preserved. Crazy stuff. There's been some speculation that Williams did not want his body to be frozen and that his son John Henry, not the Red Sox owner, was the one who requested his body to be frozen. So if you're ever feeling a little too cozy, that the world is a little too normal, just remember that Ted Williams' decapitated head is currently sitting in a lab canister 100 degrees below freezing. The 1910 batting title race was notable in that car magnate Hugh Chalmers offered an automobile to whoever finished that year with the highest average. And let's just say tomfoolery ensued, including players publicly declaring a bigger interest in winning a car over a World Series, questionable days off, and managers cheating to help the opposing player win. I have made a video dedicated to it on my channel and it is linked below. Do you ever wonder why
Shout out Honus Wagner and his baseball card.
There aren't more Japanese-born players in Major League Baseball? Well, it's because there are rules in place that severely handicap how much money they can receive if they are under 25 years old and played less than 5 seasons in the NPB, Japan's highest level of organization.
Yeah, I think that's really dumb. I mean, you see that Japan has beat the United States in the international tournaments multiple times. I think there's a big chance a lot of the Japanese players in their leagues are probably some of the best baseball players in the world that aren't getting the recognition and stuff because they're not playing in the MLB with all the big guys. Yeah, there's probably a chance if they allowed more Japanese players to be in the MLB. It's gonna be there'd be a lot more Japanese dominated.
Baseball. So
is baseball the biggest sport in Japan? I'm guessing it probably is.
Some players, such as Shohei Ohtani, opted to forego earning their worth by signing with the Angels as a 23-year-old. So if...
I mean, it worked out for him. He got $700 million, so I guess it worked out for him.
If you're ever wondering why a player who had the potential to both pitch and hit at an elite level signed for the league minimum salary, while Seiya Suzuki, a good player but by no means a franchise-altering type of guy, made $8 million in his rookie year, that's
ridiculous.
Why. There's also some other stuff about major league teams needing to pay the posting fee to the player's Japanese team, but that's all complicated brass tack stuff, which I have on the screen if that really interests you. Baseball might be the only major sport where a guy like Jim Abbott could succeed, for as you see, he was born without a right hand. While many would be given this lot and say, well, no more sports for me, Jim Abbott used it as a motivator, becoming a dominant pitcher in college.
That's fantastic. Wow, I did not know about this. That's a fantastic story.
And performing his way to a first-round pick by the Angels. Abbott had a successful career and took the idea that players of all shapes and sizes can succeed in the game to an extreme. He also threw a no-hitter against the Indians on September 4th, 1993. Okay, now imagine if someone tried to bunt to stop that no-hitter. That would actually be worthy of retaliation, in my opinion.
Yeah, bro, you're getting publicly executed if you stop that, man. Come on now.
Offseason sees a new crop of players reach free agency, whether they are non-tendered, coming off their rookie contract, or if their previously signed contract expires. Once a free agent, a player is allowed to choose to play for whatever teams are interested in them. But the free agency system we are used to is surprisingly new. Up until 1975, a reserve clause was in effect, which pretty much let teams reserve their rights to retain a player at their...
Yeah, it was the same thing in the NBA. In the 60s, you really couldn't leave that much in free agency. You were kind of stuck to the team you were on, which is how the Celtics and their big dynasty in the 60s were allowed to keep so much of their players, mainly have a one congruent team, really, for their 11 championships. And it wasn't until it was a lawsuit by Oscar Robertson, NBA MVP, against the NBA that they allowed the free agency system to take place. But even then, free agency didn't really become a big thing until like the 2000s, Yeah, I mean, free agents, people signing to big players at least, signing to new teams in free agency is a very new thing
Full discretion.
in the NBA, and it's gonna seem like in the MLB too.
Otherwise, if players were allowed to choose which teams they played for, then it would mean teams would have to bid for their services, increasing player salaries and decreasing owner profits. This was the system in place until Curt Flood sued for his right to be able to choose which team he played for and essentially opted to sit out in order to fight for all players' right to choose. And
Yeah, so he's the MLB Oscar Robertson here.
the newly-ish formed Players Union finally negotiated for the abolition of the reserve clause in 1975, effectively creating free agency. Pitcher Garrett Cole was really good in 2019 while on the Astros, possibly pitching one of the best stretches of baseball in the StatCast era. This stretch was covered most succinctly by this graphic, which was reposted a few years later by Barstool Baseball. The image took off as countless accounts on X, formerly known as Twitter, reposted it trying to get their daily rations from the engagement farm. From there, it was picked up by the Oronoclast, noting the absurdity of accounts that just endlessly repost popular screen grabs that they find. And we arrived at a situation where the joke became the joke itself. This is the unofficial moniker given to the current trend of players favoring a more uppercut swing trajectory, rather than swinging on a flat plane, something your Little League coach coached you into the ground on. The rise in using a more uppercut approach coincided with the age of StatCast analytics that empirically concluded that putting the ball
It's weird to see this. This is like a thing across all sports though. Like in the last few years, we've seen like it seems like we've seen way more strategy change and all sorts of things across all sports, just because of computers being more advanced. So statistics getting more advanced, and people thinking of new things with the new statistics. Seems like the 3-point revolution in the NBA and stuff, and more zone defense and stuff, and less layups. Like the thing with, it's less mid-range shots. And yeah, we're seeing a lot of strategy changes here in baseball too. So it just seems like in the last few decades, with the advance in statistics just across all fields, it's really changed the strategy in really all sports.
ball in the air is more advantageous than when pummeled into the ground. You saw an increase in hitters hiring their own hitting instructor, or swing guru as many of them like to be referred, and a disregard for some of the old adages such as choking up with 2 strikes. This era is most perfectly summed up by this clip featuring former MVP Josh Donaldson.
If you're 10 years old and your coach says get on top of the ball, tell him no. Because in the big leagues, these things that they call ground balls are outs.
You remember a few entries ago how free agency was invented in 1975? Well, it wasn't exactly a smooth path for either side afterwards. The first major breaking point was the strike that occurred during the middle of the 1981 season. The agreement that ended the strike is actually how we arrived at the 6 years of service time before a player is granted free agency, and the first iteration of what we call draft pick compensation. The season itself was a mess. Since it was split into 2, the owners decided to create a playoff system where the division winners from each half of the season secured a playoff berth. This is actually how we got the first best out of 5 division series. This system had a ton of unintended consequences though, including one that saw the St. Louis Cardinals, who posted the best record in the NL West, missing the playoffs completely because they placed in second both halves.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Wow,
That's
a shortened
ridiculous.
season that had a heavily flawed playoff system to compensate? Gee, I wonder who won the World Series that year. I debated putting Fangraphs higher than Baseball Savant, but I felt like more fans are used to seeing those juicy red circles than Fangraphs' pitch values dashboard. Fangraphs is similar to Baseball Reference in that it offers a near-complete statistical record of every player, but has the added benefit of employing a roster of highly talented writers and analysts such as Ben Clemens and Jay Jaff. It's also the home of Dan Szymborski, the inventor of ZiPS, or Szymborski Projection System. So if you ever see that acronym anywhere, just know that it originated from Fangraphs. FIP, or Fielding Independent Pitching, is similar to ERA in that it averages the amount of runs that a pitcher gives up per 9 innings, but only accounts for events the pitcher has total control over. So we are only talking strikeouts, walks, hit by pitches, and home runs. It takes defense totally out of the equation. Personally, I've been skeptical of this stat as I don't see it as a one-size-fits-all evaluation. I like it more for pitchers who do one of these things really well, whether it's limiting homers, walks, or maximizing strikeouts. But, and call this controversial, I'm not going to discount a guy like Johnny Cueto, who had a much higher career FIP than career ERA because inducing weak contact was part of his game. even if it relied on something out of his direct control, such as having a good defense. I'm not saying it's a bad stat to use, and trust me, you can look very smart using it, but proceed with caution when using it.
You just gotta know all your stats, so even if they're not like the most reliable stats, you can always look smart when you use them.
To argue against certain kinds of pitchers. The Pittsburgh drug trials were conducted over the course of the 1985 offseason and were an attempt to crack down on personnel who were distributing cocaine to players. Which, hey, this was the 80s.
Dude, 80s had such a big fucking coke problem across all sports, bro. Because this is the same thing that's happening in the NBA.
It was a problem for every person who we put too much stock into. Players such as Keith Hernandez and Dave Parker testified under the benefit of immunity. Ultimately, 7 men were found guilty of distributing controlled substances to players. This is sort of our first entry in the speculative/conspiratorial space.
Here we go.
But in essence, another labor dispute struck in the middle of the 1994 season, this time resulting in the cancellation of the season, leaving there to be no champion. One team that was especially bummed by this were the Montreal Expos, who, after telling the longest running joke that was their rosters of the last 20 years or so, fielded something of a super team in 1994. They were actually on a 105 win pace when the season was suspended. The team was largely dissolved over the coming years before relocating to Washington in 2005. Many believe that if they were able to make the playoffs and go on something of a run, they would still be in Montreal to this day. I don't buy it.
I think more teams should be in more countries. Like I think North American sports leagues need to expand more to try to get more countries. Like, the Dominican Republic, they have so many baseball players, right? I think they should have an MLB team. I mean, they're right next to the U.S. Canada is able to have a team. Why can't they have an MLB team? I think there should be a Mexico City team in a lot of these sports. I think it'd be really interesting to see that, maybe with the current president that'd be a bit hard, but you never know. I know NFL was toying with having a London team, that's really far away, so that's a bit harder, but still, I think the North American sports leagues should try to expand to have more teams with different countries around the U.S. too.
So I just want to note here that they were actually a team that benefited from the 1981 strike season format, but squandered their opportunity. So what goes around comes around. You may have noticed when I was describing what constitutes as a good slugging percentage or ERA, I kept saying depending on the run environment. That's because the game is always changing. For example, a slugging percentage of 500 is a lot more impressive if the league slugged 400 as a whole, as opposed to, let's say, 423. OPS.
Yeah, it's like in NBA, there's like a certain stat thinking basketball uses, like how much percentage of your team's points did you score, and then also relatively to how high the league was scoring at the time. Like Wilt Chamberlain in the 1960s averaged 50 points a game, but the entire league was averaging a ridiculous amount of points at that time compared to modern day, which is insane because modern day the scoring has gotten pretty insane. So yeah.
Plus
and Michael Jordan in the 90s, he would average like 27, but the whole league would average like 90 points a game. So
stat that takes a player.
It was a lot more impressive.
OPS, their combined on base and slugging percentage, and contextualizes it to the run environment that year, as well as taking in for park factor.
Baseball has a lot of good stats that I can see. I feel like if I watch baseball, I could get really into, because I'm a big stats guy. So I feel like that'd be a big part that I'd be a fan of if I was in if I was going to get more into baseball by doing these reactions and stuff.
Because remember, as stated before, each park plays differently depending on their dimensions. So where does WRC Plus come from? Well, it's basically OPS Plus, but derives its value from WOBA, which understands that a single is more valuable than a walk. Both are heavily correlated though. But to know how to use these numbers, 100 is average, the farther below 100 you go, the worse, and the higher above 100, the better. 120 gets you into the All-Star conversation, while 150 or above gets you into the MVP conversation. This is the best indicator of total value we have at our disposal. Wins above replacement, or WAR, is a stat that takes an offense, base running, and defensive value for hitters, as well as pitching and defensive value for pitchers, and accumulates it into a nice little number that estimates how many more wins a player is worth than a replacement player. For reference, a team of replacement players would win only about 47 games over the course of a 162-game season. Both Baseball Reference and Fangraphs have their own calculations of WAR. It is a very imperfect stat, and just like Scorecard, will show inherent bias to what the stat captains value more. But it is a good number to glance at and get a quick idea of how good a player is overall. I mentioned the launch angle revolution earlier, so you should know that launch angle is essentially a measurement of what angle the ball leaves the bat in relation to where it struck upon being put into play. The optimal launch angle range, or as it's more affectionately referred to as, the sweet spot, is from 8 to 32 degrees. Anything under is considered either a burner or topped, anything over is considered a flare or popped up. And the jam to launch angle sunflower butter, I have a peanut allergy and wanted to relate to this metaphor, exit velocity is literally how hard the ball is hit. 95 miles per hour or above is considered a hard hit ball. I'm going to plant my stake here and say that we need to start embracing.
It's insane that like people get hit in the face by these balls. Like, you know, the pitcher sometimes gets hit with the ball back in their face from a hit. Like when their shit's going like 113 miles an hour. Like, I don't understand how there's not like ridiculous injuries in baseball from people getting hit by the damn ball.
StatCast records the same way we honor traditional plateaus, such as the 50 homer season. First one of these should be the mythical 95 average exit velo season, where a hitter averages a hard hit ball during the course of an entire year, last being accomplished by Aaron Judge and Yordan Alvarez in 2022. Framing is the art by which a catcher will try to manipulate how they receive a pitch in order for it to look like a strike. As established,
That's a good strategy. I can see that because the umpire, you know, it's still. I think a lot of things like this, I think, would benefit from actually being like an AI system or like a, you know, it should be like a robot system. It shouldn't be a human deciding this. They can make so many goddamn mistakes, you know. Like same thing in the you know. I think they should experiment with seeing how much, if they have robot refs or robot umpires in this case, seeing how it would go to do shit like this, because you can just do shit like this that can, you know, just completely you can just do strategies. Your entire strategy is just fooling the umpire. Just fooling the human element.
Umpires are very imperfect people, and some catchers are able to take advantage of this by using the correct sleight of hand in order to trick the umpire into calling a ball a strike. With StatCast data, we are actually able to calculate who the best pitch framers are. Some of the greatest framers today include the Giants' Patrick Bailey, Rangers' Austin Hedges, and Mets catcher Francisco Alvarez. The worst framer last year, the Astros' Martin Maldonado. Speaking of catchers, for a lot of the game's history, a play at the plate meant the runner trying to use all his incoming momentum to try and knock the life.
I didn't know about this, and there was like some like horrific injuries. Wasn't it like Pete Rose who just did this in like an all-star game and like broke a dude's shoulder in the all-star game? And it's like, brother, this is an all-star game. What the hell are you doing?
Out of the catcher. This was the closest baseball would ever look to football. Well, that all changed on May 25th, 2011, when Giants All-Star
I didn't realize it went till that long, only till 2011. That's decently recently.
catcher Buster Posey was involved in such play, which
Okay, I know this is very dangerous, right? And it definitely is a good thing that they took it out the rule book. But man, it does look really cool. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie to you and say it doesn't look really cool just seeing this happen. I'm not gonna lie.
resulted in him breaking his fibula. Major League Baseball, not wanting to see one of their game's
Yeah, it does look fucking painful though. Goddamn.
brightest young stars go down in vain, eventually passed Rule 7.13, which refined what the catcher and runner were allowed to do in the event of a play at the plate. It stipulates that a runner needs to maintain a direct line to the plate and may not deviate from it to interfere with the catcher, and that the catcher may not block the plate unless he has possession of the ball. This caused a huge shift in what plays at the plate look like, and has been the root of scrutiny during a few controversial calls. Most recently in 2022, when the Blue Jays' Whit Merrifield was declared safe after initially being called out
That was safe? What?
on the grounds that Twins catcher Gary Sanchez was blocking the plate. Twins manager Rocco Baldelli was not a fan of this call.
It's one of the worst moments I think we've seen of umpiring in any game I've ever been a part of in baseball, and I think it was pathetic what just played out.
Hey man, don't block the plate, man. Don't block the plate.
Similar to OPS Plus and WRC Plus, ERA Plus weighs the current run environment and park factors to produce a normalized number where, just like OPS Plus, 100 is average, further down below 100 the worse a pitcher is, above 100 the better. A barrel is a StatCast term for when a batter achieves optimal contact on a ball in play. It works sort of like a sliding scale bounded by launch angle and average exit velo, as you can see by the diagram. The player with the most barrels last season? You guessed it, Ronald Acuna Jr. Another certified classic. This meme originated from an August game in 2015 between the Cubs and Cardinals. Pedro Strop came into the 8th with the lead, and was taken out of the game having surrendered that lead while putting 2 more runners on with only 1 out for good measure. Upon heading to the dugout, Strop pointed to the sky in a move that mimicked a celebration as if he just struck out the side or something. Then announcer Bob Costas drops the
That's ultimate meme potential right there of when people celebrating when they haven't done jack shit.
this on us.
Pointing toward the heavens. We can only ask or wonder that he is asking some departed relative for forgiveness for this atrocious performance.
Dude, what a goddamn commentary moment there. That I love when the commentators just absolutely grill a dude on the goddamn field.
This clip made its rounds on social media, but its lasting impact was providing the screen grab used to mock any player who dares to show even an ounce of gratitude after a bad performance. So yeah, we've established free agency is a messy process. Part of the fun comes from the system that is held over the player's head before they can reach free agency in the first place. Basically, once a player makes their debut, their service clock starts. For the first 3 years, they make the league minimum salary. But after their 3 years are done, they can start negotiating how much they make each season. Players give a number, teams give a number. It's based on the market and what players of comparable value are currently making. If they can come to an agreement, all good. That's how much that player is going to make that year. If not, they have to go to an arbitration hearing, where both player and team sit in front of a neutral party, or arbitrator, and essentially a player has to debate with their team how much they're worth. These are closed-door conversations, but man, what I would do to receive a transcript from one of these hearings, you have no idea. Notable players who went to arbitration this
Yeah, that's very weird. This does not happen in NBA. Yeah, I can only imagine players trying to argue why they're good, and like the owners trying to argue, well, you're actually not that good, buddy. Calm the hell down.
past offseason include Blue Jays first baseman Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Marlins second baseman Luis Ariz. If you're a Yankees fan, you're probably wondering why this entry is so far down. But surprisingly, not many modern fans are aware of this story. Let's introduce our 2 players. George Steinbrenner was the principal owner of the Yankees from 1973 until his death in 2010. You may know him as Faceless Larry David. Dave Winfield was a 12-time All-Star, 7-time Gold Glove winner, and 6-time Silver Slugger. Given those accolades, you can probably guess he was a Hall of Famer and beloved by the fanbase. Well, there was one man who didn't like Dave so much, and that was George Steinbrenner.
Luka Doncic, Nico Harrison kind of relationship happening here.
Winfield signed the largest contract in MLB history up to that point with the Yankees in 1981. Of course, Winfield continued to put up all-time numbers during the early and even middle parts of his Yankees tenure. However, Steinbrenner was not very fond of Winfield's play, saying he only performed well when it mattered the least. In 1988, Steinbrenner attempted to sue Dave Winfield's foundation, one that he was required to donate money to as a part of the contract. He was suing him for misappropriation of funds. During the course of the litigation, Steinbrenner paid gambler Howard Spira $40,000 to try and find evidence of Winfield's misdoings, telling Spira he would be able to find evidence of Winfield blowing the foundation's money on trysts with girlfriends. Dave had been married to his wife for a year, by the way, who he's still married to this day. Commissioner Fay Vincent caught wind of the scandal in progress, investigated, and laid down a lifetime ban on George Steinbrenner. But it was less
Yeah, David Stern type shit, except he wasn't racist. He just fucking hated this one guy in particular for some reason.
of a ban and more of a, hey, can you just lay off for a bit? And it only lasted 2 years. There are a ton of nuanced details I'm leaving out, but this might be one of the most infamous evil rich man who smokes comically big cigars.
Yeah, this is the most comically... Yeah, I mean, this is a comically evil Italian man right here. I don't know if he's Italian, but he looks like a comically evil Italian man in this photo.
Trying to blackmail his largely benevolent player in order to justify being evil story in baseball to date. If ERA is Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, and FIP is Temple of Doom, Sierra, or Skill Interactive Earned Run Average, is The Last Crusade. It might not be as much of a classic that the original was, but at the end of the day, it is the best out of all 3. This is by far the best one-stop shop for assessing a pitcher's true value, and I almost never see it being used. Basically, it tries to do what FIP does, but better. Remember when I said not to use FIP to undermine a guy whose game is dependent on inducing weak contact? Well, Sierra incorporates
Yeah, there's always these kind of acronyms when it comes to these advanced stats in the sports, like fucking the NBA with a Raptor and LeBron and Darko.
that into their formula. Now, it is important to use multiple stats to properly evaluate a pitcher, but if you were to use only one number, this should be it. A lot of criticism was thrown the Astros' way in the wake of their cheating scandal, but using technology to cheat has been around forever. Take Bobby Thompson's shot heard around the world, for example. In arguably the watershed moment in the Dodgers-Giants rivalry, the 1951 Giants rallied from a 7.5 game deficit to force a 3-game series against the Dodgers for the NL pennant.
Oh,
You know
damn.
the story from there. Or you don't. Let me explain it.
don't.
Bobby Thompson comes up with 2 runners on in the bottom of the 9th and down by 2. He crushes a line drive down Polo Ground's short porch to win the pennant against a shell-shocked Dodgers team. Well, guess what? They were cheating. Years later, several players on that
Damn.
team admitted that starting on around July 20th, they
Yeah, this is definitely something that would cause a rivalry. If other teams did this to you, you would never forgive them. You can definitely see how this would cause such a long hatred for that particular team.
employed a system where either a player or a coach would sit in the building located in center field. God, Polo Grounds is a weird stadium. With a telescope focused on the catcher to decode
A telescope is insane. Bringing out the advanced technology here.
their signs and relay them through a buzzer that ran to the bullpen located in left field. 1 buzz meant fastball, 2 meant off speed. Then a reliever would toss a ball to signal to the batter. 1 toss fastball, 2 for off speed. This scheme aided heavily in the Giants' comeback. Thompson reportedly did not look towards the bullpen before crushing the 0-1 fastball. But there's no question that the Giants are not in that situation in the first place without the benefits of cheating. Sorry to ruin one of
Right.
baseball's greatest moments. But if this tells us anything, it's that cheating is totally necessary in life and should always be the first
Hey man, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, you know what I'm saying?
option to get ahead. Did you know it's actually possible for a team to record 4 outs in an inning? And no, we are not just talking about a pitcher being forced to record 4 outs on a drop third strike, but actual plays where a defense is allowed to make an appeal to a base in order to nullify a run, even if they already recorded 3 outs. Confused? You're not alone. Take this play on June 29th during a game between the Nationals and Pirates, for example. With 1 out and runners on second and third, Cabrian Hayes lines out softly to first baseman Josh Bell. 2 out. Josh Bell throws to third baseman Ahire Adrianza, who tags out Hoy Park. Inning over. However, third base runner Jack Sawinski scored despite
So you have to figure out if he got the run before they got out, this guy got out or not.
not tagging up. The umpires constitute a crew chief review to determine if Bell caught the ball in the first place. He did, so the inning is officially over. But because the Nationals left the field before they confirmed the call and didn't appeal under the assumption that Sawinski tagged before the catch was made, the run did in fact count. Had they stayed on the field and conducted an appeal, they could have nullified the run by recording the elusive 4th out. What a strange little game baseball is, huh? Every baseball
Tons of little, little weird things you can do when you have such a, no, it's not that complicated, but it's more complicated than a lot of sports. A lot of little things that can happen that oddities with the rule book that can end up happening that are weird.
used in the major leagues is rubbed with a special mud found somewhere along the New Jersey side of the Delaware River. The mud
What?
was discovered in the late 1930s by third base coach Lena Blackburn, who sold the mud under his company named Lena Blackburn Baseball Rubbing Mud. Today, the company is ran by Jim Blintiff, who claims they only make
Got mud? Great shirt.
about $20,000 per year, also known as the middling YouTuber salary, and is actually a full-time printing press operator, only running the business on the side. The mud is used to help with the grip of the baseball.
That's insane that you help make every single MLB baseball. Like every single iconic baseball that has ever been thrown in any iconic moments in all of MLB history, and you get paid $20,000 a year. I don't know. It just seems like that's a bit low, no?
And to this day,
I understand you're just getting mud, but like still.
it's the only mud trusted by Major League Baseball. Jackie Mitchell was a left-handed pitcher from Chattanooga who became known as the girl who struck out Babe Ruth. I always knew the story of her
Oh, damn.
facing the Yankees in an exhibition game where she struck out Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig in consecutive at-bats. What I didn't know is that she was on the Chattanooga Lookouts roster. She actually had a chance to pitch during the 1931 season before Commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis deemed her unable to play on the grounds that she was, in fact, a woman. So add misogynist onto the reasons to hate the first commissioner of baseball. Fun fact,
Here we go. Is there a big women's MLB, like softball or something? I don't know if there's I haven't heard of it, if there is.
that ban on women playing in the major league system was dissolved in 1992. Teams
Oh, wow.
are now legally able to roster both sexes. Hey,
I didn't know that at all. So so there could be women that just end up on an MLB roster. Really? So I'm guessing there's not a whole female version, because I'm assuming yours. If you're a good enough female player, maybe you'll get drafted. Who knows?
baseball is a sport where people of all body types can compete on an equal playing ground. Let's see a woman take the mound against the men in the next 50 years. I think it can happen. Hell, let's get a woman knuckleballer. That would be the coolest thing ever. Another fun fact, I actually came up with the name for this channel while hiking on Kennesaw Mountain. Disclaimer, this story is probably not true, but it's too good not to include. Cal Ripken Jr. holds the all-time record for most consecutive games played at 2,632.
Holy shit. But baseball players play so many goddamn games though, so that's like what? Like 13, 14 seasons? That's still ridiculously insane. The NBA record for that is AC Green, and I don't think it's not like 14 seasons, I don't think.
Which is just an insane number. Well, I guess all the time he was putting on the field was time he was not putting into his marriage.
2,000 games, dude. Like, baseball players play so often. To play every single goddamn game, no injuries. I mean, that's and even to be good enough to even be on a team to play in 2,000 straight games is also insane. Let alone playing in every single one of them. So, I mean, that's fucking insane right there.
And as rumor has it, Cal's wife started sleeping with Bull Durham star Kevin Costner. According to the myth, one night Cal Ripken Jr. caught them in the act, got into a fight, and was so beaten up from it that he was unable to play that night's game. In response, the Orioles postponed the game, claiming that the lights at Camden Yards were malfunctioning, which is true, that did happen.
Postponing the whole game to let his streak continue is so funny.
This gave Cal time to recover and be ready for the game the following day. This is a story I really don't believe happened, but am glad exists. Defensive metrics are largely a crapshoot.
I mean, it seems like a weird thing to make up though, right? I don't know. It seems like it could be true. At least to some extent. It just seems like a weird, like oddly specific thing to make up.
But the one that most of us dorks can agree on is outs above average. Basically, the stat looks at an individual fielding play, uses metrics about the defender's position, the data about the batted ball, and spits out a catch or play probability. If the defender makes the play, they are granted the difference of the probability. If they don't, then they are deducted the amount of the probability. That is about as oversimplified an explanation that I can provide. But let's look at this play right here. Julio Rodriguez has a 35% chance to make this play, based on the ball's hang time and the distance he needs.
Yeah, there's so many stats. I think there's way more factors in baseball than there is in a lot of other sports that makes these stats a lot more complicated and a lot more advanced than a lot of other ones.
Needs to cover in order to execute the play. If he makes it, 0.65 points are added to his OAA. If he doesn't, only 0.35 points are deducted. Some of the best players according to outs above average last year, regardless of position, were Cubs shortstop Dansby Swanson, Giants second baseman Thairo Estrada, and Pirates third baseman Ke'Bryan Hayes.
The throw was
Spin
crazy.
rate is essentially the revolutions per minute on any given pitch. There has been something of a growing obsession as, again, metrics prove that increased spin leads to increased effectiveness. For example, fastballs with higher spin tend to rise on the hitter, making the ball harder to catch up to. Higher spin in general
Science and all that, physics, wind resistance and all that.
translates to more movement, which in turn means better results for the pitcher. Also, something spider tack. PitchFX was the original method for tracking nuanced pitching data. The system, comprised of 3 cameras placed in the stadium, was implemented in 2006 and was able to track the speed and location of pitches. Without PitchFX, there is no ump scorecard. There is no tracking pitch locations on MLB Game Day. But more importantly, there is no insight into looking under the hood of what makes pitchers so effective. PitchFX was replaced by TrackMan in 2017, which is a lot more advanced and accurate than PitchFX, but you truly can't appreciate what's new
Gotta respect the OGs.
without appreciating the classics first. This would be top of the iceberg had this been made in, let's say, 1911, but icebergs didn't exist until 1912 when the first one sunk the Titanic.
This is true. This is true.
Boner refers to one of baseball's most infamous plays. It happened on September 23, 1908, in the middle of a heated pennant race between the Cubs and Giants. The game was tied heading into the bottom of the ninth. Giants shortstop Al Bridwell comes up to the plate with runners on first and third and 2 out. He laces a single, seemingly walking the game off. Fans storm the field because that's what they used to do back in the day. But Cubs second baseman John
I think they should bring the storming the field thing back. I think it's fantastic to watch. At least for like the World Series, they should. I don't know.
Johnny Evers realized that the runner on first, Fred Merkle, never touched second base, and even with hundreds of fans storming the field, stepped onto second with the ball, ruling Fred Merkle out on a force play, which nullified the game-winning run. The game was declared a tie due to darkness, and after finishing the season tied in first place, both teams had to...
What are the chances that like the only way a baseball game can ever like fucking tie, and they end up tied for first in the fucking standings? They have to fucking do a extra game, I guess. Yeah, well, what a choke, man. How are you not gonna touch second base?
Essentially conducted duel.
And what a realization. Fantastic keen awareness right there to understand that.
Over to which the Giants lost. The play would be famously referred to as Merkle's boner. The Cubs would win their final World Series of the 20th century, and Fred Merkle would actually have a fairly productive career, even playing out the latter part of it with those same Cubs, for which he was forever linked through that one fateful boner. Rube Waddell was one of baseball's first lovable weirdos. He was a dominant pitcher, posting a career 2.16 ERA, but that's not why we're here. He managed to pull off some truly astonishing stunts, such as asking his fielders to go to the sidelines while he was pitching during exhibition games, performed with a touring theater company, and even got in a fight with a teammate after roasting him for wearing a
No, hold on, we gotta go back here for a second before we even get to
his fielders to go to the
him getting in a fight of him roasting his goddamn straw hat.
sidelines while he was pitching during exhibition games, performed with a touring theater company, and even got...
The drip is absolutely immaculate. Is this the manager at the center here, dude? Why is his drip so immaculate, dude? Oh my god, this guy's about to be devastated by the Wall Street crash. Oh my god.
in a fight with a teammate after roasting
Look like he about to get assassinated in Ford's Theater.
him for wearing a straw hat. Which, hey man, there are some people out there who just cannot pull off a straw hat. Unfortunately, at the age of 37, he contracted both pneumonia and tuberculosis, which was pretty
How you gonna get double hit, dude? Double tapped, double pumped.
much a death sentence back then. He was elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1946 by the Veterans Committee. Walter Johnson once said he was the greatest pitcher he ever witnessed. Marge Schott was the former owner of the Cincinnati Reds, overseeing them during their 1990 World Series win. She was known for bringing her St. Bernard dog with her everywhere she went. But the reason she is on this list is because she was a racist. Eventually she was...
So this is Donald Sterling, the Donald Sterling equivalent. If you don't know, Donald Sterling was this NBA owner. He owned the LA Clippers, and he got caught on call getting mad at like someone. I don't remember if he was like someone. I don't remember if he was like a family member or someone that worked for him. They posted a picture with Magic Johnson, and he was like, he got caught on call saying, you know what, you can sleep with them, you can take photos with them, just don't bring I just don't want you to be associated by bringing black people to my games. And Donald Sterling also said that he wanted NBA teams to be rich white Southern owners coaching poor black players, like literally plantation shit. Yeah, so this is the MLB equivalent here?
banned from the game after a string of incidents that started with her calling her players the $1 million N-words and ended with her saying, you know what, I think the Nationalist Socialist Party had some good ideas.
Fucking hell. Fucking Elon over here.
Even her dog, that was a beloved face of the franchise,
Kanye.
became a problem when she would just let the big guy roam throughout the stadium, often leaving behind tufts of hair and piles of shit. Schott died.
Yeah, I think I'm not mad at that one though. The Nazi stuff, I think we can focus on more than her dog shitting all over the stadium.
In 2004. Rest in piss. Some of Hall of Fame Yankee shortstop Derek Jeter's
Rest in piss, bozo.
signature moments involve amazing defensive plays. But what if I told you he wasn't that great of a defender? At least according to advanced fielding metrics, which, as I said,
That highlight, though, was crazy.
Before can be unreliable. Over his career, he was worth negative 253 fielding runs. That is worst of all time. Now let me be clear.
What the
Fielding
fuck?
runs are open to scrutiny, and part of that gaudy
Worst of all time, though, is fucking crazy.
number comes from the fact that he was manning that position for the entirety of his 20-year career.
I'm guessing, yeah, okay, I'm guessing it's a cumulative stat. So if you do a little bit bad each game and you play for like 20 years, it's going to really fucking hurt you on that stat.
I'm not saying he's the worst defensive shortstop of all time, but his reputation may have preceded his ability. This does open up some fun debate, for instance. Should at the time shortstop Alex Rodriguez have taken over there upon his trade to the Yankees instead of moving over to third? This is all up to you, of course, and part of this debate on whether to rely on the numbers or the eye test is what makes following the game an endlessly rewarding experience.
Yeah, you can't just rely on the stats. You gotta actually watch the goddamn game instead of looking at the game through Excel sheets.
Originally, I was just going to focus on Bronson Arroyo's music career, but during the writing process, Adam Wainwright dropped a banger on us. So let's quickly roll off some baseball players turned musicians. As just mentioned, former Red Sox pitcher Bronson Arroyo is the lead singer for the band Bronson Arroyo and the 04s. Off the bat, the name is cheesy. First off, unless you are a jazz quartet, don't give yourself an X in the Y's name. Music itself is good. They released an album last year, and it reminds me of The Bravery a bit. Former Yankee center fielder Bernie Williams is a really talented guitarist, and I mean a really.
I like how NBA players, pretty much all the ones that turn musicians, are rappers. MLB musicians, it's seeming like they're mostly like country / guitar artists or whatever.
Talented guitarist. He actually has a degree in music. On the surface, a lot of his stuff sounds like something you'd hear in a real estate agent's office, but if you need something calming and
Coworker music.
largely pleasant to listen to, Bernie is your man. Hall of Fame catcher Mike Piazza is a drummer, and there exists a clip of him playing, and I have to review this. His meter is a little choppy, and that drum set sounds like shit. Not that the recording quality is doing him any favors, but honestly, he doesn't have the worst form. I think this kid could have a career in music. He also provided screams for Black Label Society's song Stronger Than Death. Ken Griffey Jr. had a short-lived rap career, being featured, and I mean
Oh, wow.
featured, as the centerpiece for Kid Sensation's The Way I Swing. And of course, Adam Wainwright is developing a post-playing career as a country artist. Honestly, as far as country music goes, it's pretty good. Not that it's my field of expertise or anything. I would also be super remiss if I didn't bring up former pitcher Edwin Jackson, who is an excellent drummer. I would maybe even argue better than Mike Piazza, and former first baseman Ben Broussard, who has a wonderful voice. He is a solo artist. He does adult alternative, and I'm not going to lie, I have a huge soft spot for that genre, and he does it really well. Speaking of the 04s,
Damn.
their first baseman, Kevin Millar, not to be confused with White Sox center fielder Kevin Pillar, is banned from joining the MLB Players Association. Why? Well, during the 1994 strike, he was actually one of the players that reported to spring training as the strike continued into the 1995 season.
So he's like seen as a traitor to the Players Association, I'm assuming. He was going with the corporation.
Scab, as they are sometimes referred to. On those terms, he was permanently banned from joining the MLBPA. So if you ever play an older MLB game and wonder why the Red Sox first baseman is a fictional player named Anthony Freese, well, that's why. Hideki Matsui was a left fielder primarily for the New York Yankees. He was a great hitter, and even helped them win their last championship in 2009.
What is... okay.
Many of you may not know about him is that he loves porn, and is not ashamed to admit it. His first admission of his true love came in a 2003 interview with Time magazine. According to a snippet from GQ in 2012, he amassed over 55,000 videos of the X-rated version.
Why would you admit to this? What... You're a serious gooner when you're just outright saying it for no one prompted you to say this. There was no leak that caused you to say this. What? 55? How do you even have time for 55,000, bro? You watch one of those? No, you watch 10 of those per day, right? And that's still taking you... No, this is insane. Do the math here. You watch 10 of those per day. That's 3,650 a year. That still takes you that still takes you about 15 years to watch them all. If you watched 10 per day, if you watched one per day, you're looking at what? Over 100 years worth, 150 years worth of adult videos. How, dude? What do you? It's like when in child predators they get caught with like 5 terabytes of CP. Like it's like, bro, why do you need so many goddamn terabytes? How? What? You're not. I mean, it's not illegal to be fair, but what he's doing. But still, 50. What use do you possibly have for 55,000 adult videos, dude? I don't understand.
Variety, which is a number that sounds too absurdly large to be true. Like, think of what media you own the most of, whether that be records, movies on Blu-ray, or even Pop Funko toys. Now multiply that by about 5,000. Either way, we do respect someone so brave to admit his love for something that most of us are still ashamed to watch.
Hey, I gotta respect a master collector when I see one. Okay, his collection's immaculate. He's gonna have everything you could possibly think of in there.
Stuff Plus is a stat created by athletic writer Enoceris to condense an individual pitch's metrics in order to quantify its nastiness. It takes into account pitch velocity, vertical break, horizontal break, arm angle, and release extension. Again, I am severely oversimplifying this, but for the purposes of the general baseball fan, just like the other Plus stats, it grades on a scale where 100 is average, and you can infer the rest. The fastball, the best Stuff Plus rating comes from Spencer Strider, and the best changeup belongs to Logan Webb. Protecting your information is essential. I should know, I used to work in cybersecurity. Typically, when you think of a company that needs
And that's why this video is sponsored by NordVPN.
to be especially protective of their data, you picture something in the medical field or a government contractor. But baseball teams need to be careful too. Take for instance the Astros, who discovered in 2015 that St. Louis Cardinals scouting director Chris Correa successfully hacked into current, at the time, Astros GM Jeff Luhnow's ground control database. This database included information about projects conducted by the Astros analytical department, information on team strategy, etc. While the investigation concluded that
Astros getting a bit of a taste of their own medicine, right?
Correa was acting as a lone wolf, it is unclear how his access to protected
FBI investigation is crazy though.
information osmosed throughout the Cardinals organization. As a result, the Cardinals had to pay a $2 million fine, lost 2 draft picks, and Correa was banned for life. Jimmy Pearsall was the Red Sox primary center fielder through the early to mid-1950s. He made 2 All-Star teams and won 2 Gold Gloves while accumulating a respectable 29.4 reference WAR. But the reason he gets a mention here is for some of his antics. These are including, but not limited to, running the bases facing backwards after hitting his 100th career home run, charging
I respect it.
the mound with a bat in his hand, something that could be considered a weapon in a certain context, and even fought future Yankees manager Billy Martin after screaming insults at him. It is not confirmed if Pearsall ever saw Billy Martin wearing a straw hat. He was admitted into inpatient psychiatric care during the 1952 season, which inspired the book Fear Strikes Out. This book was soon adapted into a movie in which Pearsall was played by Norman Bates himself. You'd think a player this notorious during his time would garner more discussion nowadays, but there really wasn't much coverage over his death in 2017. Even I hadn't really heard of him until doing research for my White Sox video. Yeah, that clip I played at the end with the former White Sox announcer talking down to Jerry Reinsdorf, that was actually Jimmy Pearsall. There is an unspoken truth in baseball that amphetamines, or greenies as they're sometimes referred to, are as ingrained into the game as the 7th inning stretch and setting your teammate's foot ablaze. The season is long, and baseball is a sport that requires immense concentration. Players, most notably position players, feel they need a stimulant to help them get through the 162-game marathon.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's always some. I assume every pro athlete, I'm not gonna lie, is on some kind of drug. That's probably an unfair advantage. Yeah, obviously they get the obvious ones, and then I still assume that most of them are on something, because it's like not human to do all of this, whether it's a minor thing to alleviate, getting pain all the time, or something to boost your energy a bit. I think all of them are on a bit of something,
After he retired, Tony Gwynn claimed that over 50% of position players at the time were using some form of amphetamines. They were officially banned in 2005 during the steroid crackdown. Some actually theorized that the downturn we saw in offense in the early 2010s had more to do with this substance being banned than HGH. More recently, players have found a loophole in being granted a medical exception to use Adderall, and about 10% of the league is granted this exception. It is a touchy subject, but one that is important to discuss. Finally, the first curse we have on here. Last Iceberg, we talked about the curse of the Bambino, as well as the curse of the Billy Goat, one that I had many problems with based solely on the perceived ramifications of what should have been an insignificant incident. The curse of Billy Penn is actually quite fascinating, as it extends to all sports in the city of Philadelphia.
I would not be surprised if the Sixers are cursed. They are, at least since '83, they are ridiculously cursed. I mean, yeah, I mean, Allen Iverson getting all types of injuries, Charles Barkley getting traded, and then obviously recently, the process, and then Joel Embiid still not being healthy. I think he's been ruled out for the season again this season. Paul George, they're paying him $50 million a year to average 16 points a game now, and to be a podcaster. They had Ben Simmons. They drafted Markelle Fultz first overall. I mean, the Sixers. If there's any NBA team that's cursed, I think it might be the Sixers. I mean, goddamn.
Story has it that when their city hall was built, there was a handshake agreement that no building in Philadelphia will be built higher than the statue of city founder William Penn, which stood atop of City Hall. That agreement made by the forefathers of our forefathers was broken in 1985 when...
I don't know. Well, the Eagles just won the Super Bowl, though, so I think they might have broke this curse a little bit.
Construction of One Liberty Place began, which towered over Penn's statue. Instead of haunting everyone involved, the ghost of William Penn did one better. He cursed all their sports teams. The Phillies experienced a heartbreaking loss in the 1993 World Series before experiencing one of the worst runs in franchise history. Now, you may be saying that this curse seems too contrived, and I mean, the Phillies won the World Series in 2008. But what makes this curse fascinating to me is that in 2007, while the final beam of the Comcast Center, the soon-to-be second tallest building in Philadelphia, was being built, 2 ironworkers attached a tiny figurine of William Penn to the beam in order to ease his spirits. A year and a half later, the Phillies won the World Series.
Hey.
I like this one because instead of sitting around complaining that their teams suck because some dead guy put a hex on them,
You gotta fight back against the curses, man. You gotta try to get them. You gotta try to, make amends.
People of Philadelphia decided to intervene in order to right the wrong. And it worked. Arm slot refers to the angle in which a pitcher throws the ball. The most common is the 3/4 slot, but there is a wide range of angles where a pitcher decides to throw from. You might see someone with a 70-degree release being referred to as a side armor, and anyone with a 0 to 40-degree release being described as throwing overhand. Some teams like the Rays have strategically deployed relievers of all variations of arm angles in single games in order to deceive hitters and throw their timing off. So whenever you hear the announcer say something like pitcher X throws from the 60-degree arm slot, that's what they are referring to. Expected weighted on base average on contact, or ex-Wobicon, besides being tremendously fun to say, is exactly that. Simply
These anagrams, dude, I can't.
put, it takes the weighted on base average for balls put into play. Say you really like a player, but they strike out way too much. Just look at their ex-Wobicon. Hey, O'Neal Cruz might have struck out at a concerning rate in 2022, but his ex-Wobicon was 439. That was among the best in the league. I like to think of this
We're not gonna call it Expo Bacon.
as the potential energy number. If there is a player whose numbers are paltry, but they have a high X-Wobicon, then I like to say they have a high potential, or X-potential. People sometimes say I have a high X-potential. This one is technically a conspiracy, but come on, y'all. We know it's true. Barry Bonds wanted to continue playing after 2007, even after breaking the all-time home run record. His contract with the Giants expired, so he was a free agent looking to sign for the league.
I saw Barry Bonds. I think I've seen the John Boyce video. No. Ooh, who's it by? Is it Foolish Baseball? I know one of the big baseball YouTubers. I saw a video. The Bonds in 3. I've seen that video. Barry Bonds literally said he would play for free, and no team signed him, despite the fact he was still a pretty good damn batter at his age, and would have helped a team 100%. It makes sense that because of the whole steroid scandal, the MLB kind of forced his hand to retire a bit there. It kind of told all the owners, hey, don't sign this guy, to make our image look better, get this big steroid guy out the league. I could definitely see it.
minimum salary.
It definitely would make the most sense than just a bunch of teams decided to not sign this really good guy who said he would literally play for free.
The craziest part was he was still a very good player. Yeah, he was unplayable in the field, but he still posted a 1045 OPS in 2007. He led the league in on-base percentage. Any American League team with a hole at designated hitter could have used him, but he was never even offered a contract and subsequently retired. We'll never officially know if the league was colluding against him, but they were. They were. Especially in the
Let's be real here.
midst of the Mitchell report, MLB wanted to wash their hands of Bonds, who had become one of the game's most controversial figures. Honestly, I would have loved to seen him sign with the Rays, who could have used the boost in offense in order to extend the curse of Billy Penn. Dustin Fowler was a right fielder in the Yankee system when he was called up on June 29, 2017 to play against the Chicago White Sox. In the first inning, before he even had a chance to bat, Fowler ran down a ball in foul ground before colliding violently against the wall. This collision
That looks like I broke a rib.
resulted in an open rupture of the right patellar tendon. He was ruled out for the rest of the season. In the aftermath, Dustin Fowler sued the White Sox organization due to failure to protect him from a concealed electrical box that he collided with on the play, which most likely increased the severity of the injury. The lawsuit is still...
You probably should sue. Yeah, I guess that's who you sue. Sue whoever made this goddamn stadium who decided that. I could see. Yeah, that's. I mean, that looks fucking brutal, my guy. You got to jump for that, my guy.
ongoing last I checked, as Dustin Fowler hasn't played a professional game since 2021.
Oh, damn.
Rule 5.11 parentheses A parentheses 2, known as the Earl Weaver Rule, came into effect in 1980. The rule stipulates that a player penciled in as the DH is required to have at least one at-bat. Seems kinda obvious. Well, when the designated hitter was introduced to the American League in 1973, Orioles manager Earl Weaver realized that he could just slot in a starting pitcher who wasn't scheduled to throw that day as the DH. Then he could switch him out with whoever he felt was best suited for the matchup whenever their spot first came up in the game. It was a pretty ingenious strategy, but MLB didn't quite enjoy this loophole and passed the rule in order to prevent such lineup manipulation. This entry comes across as mean, but it's just referring to the fact that out of all the original 16 franchises that exist today, the Phillies have the worst win percentage among them.
I mean, yeah, if you exist for 130 years and you're still bad, I mean, that's just tough right there.
The team with the worst all-time winning percentage independent of when they started.
Cough, cough, New York Knicks, been around for 70 years, 75 years, nearly 80 years actually, and I've only won 2 championships.
The Miami Marlins. Another obscure curse that I really enjoy. This one comes from the Giants franchise. We've talked about Polo Grounds and all of its oddities, but one feature of Polo Grounds hidden from play, just as important, was a commemorative plaque placed in center field in honor of Eddie Grant, who was killed during World War I. The Giants experienced moderate franchise success while in New York, some of it aided by cheating, but success is success. After the final game the Giants played in Polo Grounds before moving to San Francisco, angry fans stormed the field, one of whom stole the plaque. From then on, the Giants of San
That's just disrespectful, man. How are you gonna steal someone's fucking grave, or a memory to them?
Francisco experienced a very quiet World Series drought, one that was largely overshadowed by droughts caused by alcoholics and goats. Just like the curse of Billy Penn, the good people of San Francisco decided to right the wrong in 2006 by installing a new plaque at AT&T Park, where the Giants are now playing. The plaque was finished in 2008, and the Giants won their first World Series since the move 2 years later, and 2 years after.
I love things like that when they kind of do something to fix the curse, and then right after they finally break their fucking drought. I really like that. I think that stuff's just that stuff's really cool.
That, and 2 years after that. So you may be wondering, why the hell was it referred to as the Curse of Coogan's Bluff? Well, Polo Grounds was located in an area known as Coogan's Bluff. The more you know. There was a long-withstanding rumor among the baseball crowd that Fidel Castro was once scouted by some Major League Baseball teams and even offered a contract
He might have been recruited by some basketball teams, man. This guy was a hooper.
from the Giants while he was a pitcher for the University of Havana. Had he been signed to a minor league contract, the course of world history could have turned in a dramatic way. No Cuban Revolution, no Bay of Pigs invasion, no Cuban Missile Crisis. Maybe Cuba experiences another revolution spearheaded by a charismatic leader. But these rumors have pretty much been put to rest over the years. While it is true he is a fan of the game, most of the stories of him even sniffing professional baseball were dispelled. I mean, look at that form. A toddler could throw better than that. Game-winning runs
Hey, don't roast my man Fidel like that, man. Don't roast my man Fidel.
batted in, or GWRBI, was an experimental
How many of these entries are just acronym advanced stats?
stat that Major League Baseball started keeping track of in 1980 until 1988. It essentially is a run batted in credited to a player who drives in a run that gives their team a lead that is never relinquished. I believe it was instituted as a soft response to the save, trying to find the offensive equivalent for one, but this stat is largely meaningless, and there are so many better ways to measure clutch for those who are interested, like me. Tunneling is the art of a pitcher presenting two or more of his pitch types on a nearly identical path for as long as possible before breaking their separate ways in order to fool the hitter. This is perhaps one of the greatest tools pitchers have in
Yeah, ridiculously hard tactic, but I would assume. But yeah, I mean that's a good tactic. If it looks like the exact same pitch and then randomly switches, yeah, I can see this being a fucking fantastic tactic.
order to deceive hitters who have reached a point where they could connect to a curved bullet as if they were in a movie that wanted so badly to be Fight Club. Yeah, we're starting Tier 7 off right with a good old-fashioned conspiracy. This one is in reference to teams that play in an indoor stadium turning on their AC to blow in whenever the opposing team is hitting. The idea is that similar to
Seems like a good strat to me. It reminds me of the NBA Finals of the Spurs turning off the AC to make LeBron cramp.
a gust of wind blowing inward, all fly balls would be knocked down, pretty much converting any power hitter into Brett Gardner. The biggest example comes from the 1991 World Series Championship Minnesota Twins, who rumor had it would blast the center field AC when the opposing team was up. This helped aid their famous worst to first season and explains how they were able to stifle a Braves lineup that featured players such as Lonnie Smith, David Justice, and that season's MVP,
Lonnie Smith, man, absolute legend.
Terry Pendleton, to the tune of 1.75 runs a game while they were playing in the Metrodome. I'm not going to look into the data here and see if there's any correlation, even though I could in a separate video. And I might, that actually sounds really fun. But today, some believe that the Miami Marlins have employed this tactic in their indoor stadium. In the first and last of its kind, the Cardinals experienced a seat cushion delay on April 18, 1987.
What?
It was seat cushion night at Busch Stadium. You remember seat cushion night, right? You don't? Oh, that's correct, because the game that ensued ended up being so insane, so climactic, that after Cardinals second baseman Tom Herr hit a double in the 6th inning to complete the comeback from a 5-0 deficit, seat cushions that were given out to fans as part of a promotion started raining down from the stands.
Yeah, don't give the fans anything that can be possibly even considered to be thrown into the thing, because people will. People 100% will. Don't even consider it.
Resulting in a delay of the game. Fans will literally use any excuse they can get to throw something they received for free onto the field of play. Now, we've seen plenty of odd delays over the history of the game. Bug delays, sprinkler delays, Kevin Costner related delays, but never before or since had we seen a seat cushion delay as the
It's just an odd thing to give out, too. Like, why the hell are you giving out seat cushions, huh? It just seems weird.
Cardinals, or any team for that matter, would never give away seat cushions again. This is honestly really disappointing because of how uncomfortable most stadium seating is. Thanks, St. Louis. This
Just embed it into the seat, dude. Just embed it into the damn seat.
is in reference to Braves
Like a movie theater seat, but make it up the whole stadium.
utility man Jerry Royster's
There's no way you can't afford to make all the seats like movie theater seats. There's no way you can't. I don't believe
1977,
it.
who, according to Baseball Reference's WAR, was the worst individual season of all time at -4 wins above replacement. He posted a 46 OPS plus, which is just downright unplayable, and an astonishing -25 fielding runs. Now, it takes a village of factors to raise a season like this, one being that the 1977 Braves were a bad team, and simply didn't have the depth to find another shortstop, a position Royster was not adept at, but had to play 40 games there anyway.
Yeah, he's a bit out of position. He's playing a position that's way more higher skilled than he is because the team is just so bad. He's like, okay, this is somehow our best option to put here.
It was also only his second full season, so you could say he had a sophomore slump for the ages. He would actually have a solid career, but 1977 was a year he'd like to forget. This is a reference to an ongoing trend in a select few Angels pitchers suffering horribly tragic deaths. The first
wow.
notable one was Angels reliever Donnie Moore, who shot his wife before turning the gun on himself.
Holy
Many
shit.
believed his troubles stemmed from allowing the Red Sox to take the lead in Game 5 of the 1986 ALCS, which helped the Red Sox come back and win the series. Next was young pitcher Nick Adenhart, who immediately after his first career start in the majors was involved in a car crash with a drunk driver and was pronounced dead shortly after. Yeah, that one really fucked me up. Next up, we have Tommy Hanson, who pitched for the Angels in 2012
Drive safe, people, and also don't kill your wife.
before stepping away to grieve the death of his stepbrother. He would die from a cocaine overdose 3 years later. Most recently was starter Tyler Skaggs, who overdosed in Arlington, Texas, while the team was in town to play the Rangers. There are a lot more stories, and in the
That's
past,
crazy.
I've contemplated about doing a video covering the entirety of the Angels on the mound, but decided not to as it was just too emotionally heavy for me to.
Yeah, I think the closest NBA comparison to this would be the Celtics, who had Len Bias, who was meant to be like the next Michael Jordan, big college prospect, die of a cocaine overdose, like the day after they drafted him, while celebrating that he got drafted. And then they had Reggie Lewis, who was supposed to take over after Larry Bird and the Celtics era, as the next great Celtics player, and then died of a heart attack on the court. So that's the closest comparison here. But 4 is absolutely insane.
Do at
For
the
one
time.
team.
I might still make the video. I don't know. Many attribute the Red Sox 86-year World Series drought to the curse of the Bambino, but recently, many have speculated that their curse goes a lot deeper and darker than that. The real reason the Red Sox were cursed was because of their owner Tom Yawkey, and his what can only be described as unabashed racism. One story goes that
Oh,
Jackie
shit.
Robinson
Yeah, I can imagine there being. I mean, you're talking about racist owners like that woman in the 80s and, Donald Sterling and stuff. I can imagine there being some ridiculously racist owners when literally there was only white players in the MLB.
had actually tried out for the Red Sox before the Dodgers even showed interest. And while his tryout showed he was capable, the only response Jackie heard from the crowd were a few jabs and uses of the N-word. The Red Sox were the last major league team to sign a black player when they signed Pumpsie Green in 1959, 3 years after Jackie Robinson retired. Had the Red Sox been more willing to put their ugly biases aside, maybe they would have a few more World Series trophies next to their name. This comes from a rumor that in 2013, Tigers rookie Avisail Garcia, at the very least, initiated an affair with teammate Prince Fielder's wife.
Tony Parker type situation with Brent Barry.
And the revelation from Fielder caused a massive fight in the clubhouse that eventually led to Fielder getting traded to the Rangers that offseason. The rumor was started by former Tigers starter Denny McLain of all people, and while nobody on the Tigers confirmed the rumor, nobody denied it either. There is a theory
That pretty much confirms it. If no one's denying something, it's pretty obvious it happened.
that Padres general manager AJ Preller uses a burner account on Twitter under the
Yes, I love I love examples of fucking people using burner accounts and fucking getting caught, or people being pretty damn sure they're using burner accounts. Buddy Hield has the most obvious burner account. It's so funny. And Elon Musk has fucking burner accounts that's fucking really embarrassing.
Basically, it seems like an account he uses to vent some of his frustrations and to confirm trades, albeit super vaguely.
Yes.
Len Konecki was an outfielder who played for the New York Giants and Brooklyn Dodgers from 1932 to 1935. After learning of his release from the Dodgers, Konecki took a flight to Buffalo in an attempt to rejoin the Bisons, whom he had played for in 1933 after getting released by the Giants. Konecki, who was shaken up by the news of his release, became erratic and attempted to hijack the plane.
Oh,
the
shit.
pilot and a good Samaritan knocked Len over the head with a fire extinguisher, to which he
Fuck.
became unconscious and ended up succumbing to his injuries.
Oh,
yes,
damn.
a professional baseball player tried to hijack a plane once, was thwarted, and the people who stopped him had to use so much force that it
I really don't understand what was the reason for hijacking the plane. Was it really that hard to just get where he wanted to? Like, did he have to hijack the damn plane? I really don't understand.
Led to his death. Moberg was a catcher from 1923 to 1939.
Those baseball gloves are ridiculous.
Even garnering MVP votes in 1930 for reasons. But he was more notable for becoming a U.S. spy during World War II. He was even assigned to an operation in order to kidnap Italian physicists so they could gain intelligence on Axis military projects led by Werner Heisenberg and Carl Friedrich von Weizsäcker. I definitely butchered that. And to try and convince them to join the U.S. This led to one of the coldest lines dropped by FDR when he said, "I see Moberg is still catching very well."
What a line. What a line. What a line. Oh my god. This guy FDR has some of the greatest aura of any president of all time, dude. What a goddamn quote, dude. What a quote.
His baseball card remains on display at the CIA headquarters in honor of him, and to this day, it is the only baseball card on display there, as members of the CIA are encouraged not to enjoy anything or experience happiness. This is the—
They're also encouraged to become, facilitate the biggest terrorist organization in the world and overthrow democratically elected governments. But we'll skip past that.
nerdiest stat I could think of. Remember when I mentioned arm slot? Well, this is the hitter equivalent of that. Vertical bat angle refers to the angle in which a hitter's bat is positioned relative to the knob of the bat when the hitter connects with the ball. VBA/AA data just became available to the public, but even then, it is largely generalized. And
hey guys, I got a new advanced stat. It's really good. It's actually the most impactful thing in the entire sport for 150 years. We haven't noticed. I call it Babe. My stat called Babe. And basically, what it calculates is the swing of the hitter's cock as he hits the ball. It really is very impactful. I gotta tell you, this is the best stat to use. You have to use it in every argument. This should be deciding the MVP.
Hidden behind a paywall. These numbers literally go into the subatomic level of the game, and should only be evaluated and analyzed if you're trying to get hired by a front office or are just that much of a fan. Writers at Fangraphs are starting to aggregate the data for patterns, but for now, just know power hitters will typically have a higher bat angle than contact hitters. Yes, that's right. Ocean's 11 and Fantastic Mr. Fox star George Clooney
and the Batman
tried out for the Reds twice. The former sexiest man alive was a starter for his freshman team. It's unclear when exactly he tried out, but according to him, he bit off way more than he could chew during his first tryout. He came back a year later, thinking he had what it took this time, then saw an 82-mile-per-hour curveball up close, and decided baseball was not for him. But lucky for everyone else, acting was. I debated putting this one higher, as George Clooney was, at one point, one of the biggest names in Hollywood, but I just don't see this story getting mentioned a ton. You'd think Barstool Sports would post about it every chance they got. So this layer was inherently filled with a lot of darkness, and this story is no different, but it has a largely happy ending. Andrew Tolles was a prospect from Decatur, Georgia. He played for the Tennessee Volunteers baseball team, but was cut for undisclosed reasons. Then he was drafted by the Rays in the 3rd round of the 2012 draft. He was then placed on the inactive list while with the Class A team for undisclosed reasons. He then signed with the Dodgers in 2015 and made his major league debut in 2016, putting up strong numbers in a limited sample. He played a few more seasons, but did not arrive to camp in 2019 due to personal reasons. It has come out that Andrew Tolles was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, which led to him being admitted in 2018 and unable to play since.
That's just really sad, man. That's just really sad.
Dodgers have tendered him a 1-year contract every year since his diagnosis so he could stay on their health insurance plan and receive the care he needs. So for as much hate as I and the rest of the baseball world gives the Dodgers for building an inescapable super team, this was a pretty classy move on their part. And to round off, we have Greg Veiga.
I would not expect that from a team to actually do. So that's actually a really feel-good thing for them to be doing.
Halos. He was a prospect in the New York Mets system that never quite panned out. I asked my friend SRS Mike who the most obscure prospect he remembered being hyped for was, and this is who he gave. I just want to note that as a baseball fan who followed their team year-round, like a never-ending reality show, these are the types of players who just occupy space in your brain. I'll never forget Joey Turdo.
It's like, yeah. What do guys do when they're hanging out with each other? They just start naming obscure sports players. Like somebody who's, you're just chilling around with your friends, and you're like, "Yo, dude, Jordan Goodwin," and and you just gotta name off as many. Ish Wainwright. You just gotta list off obscure names until you gotta keep going. Ooh, yeah, I do remember that guy. So what guys do for fun? Okay.
Otzlovich, who was putting up crazy numbers for the Gwinnett Braves in 2013 and the Fall League the year before, who just could never make it click in the majors. Names like these will come and go, and I felt it was important to highlight the most crucial part about being a baseball diehard, just sitting around with your buds and remembering dudes. Whew, that was a doozy. Even with its length, I obviously didn't cover every possible subject there is to be covered. So if you felt there was a glaring omission,
yeah,
please.
So yeah, I thought that was a fantastic video by No More Fielders. Make sure to subscribe to his original channel in the description. Yeah, if you want to see, I plan for this to be the start of an MLB series I'm doing on this channel. I want to react to more MLB videos, but I don't really know which ones I'm gonna do. So if any of you in the comments are gonna recommend any videos for a person getting into MLB really seriously for the first time, I'd really appreciate that. Give me information, maybe stuff that I got wrong in this video or stuff that I should know maybe. Yeah, hope you enjoy. Subscribe if you want to see more MLB content that may be coming to this channel. Like if you like let me know that you want specifically the MLB content. And yeah, subscribe to all my other 20 million other channels. And yeah, that'll be about it. Bye.